scared to go in chat, but I'll bring
Me
it
too.
up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. How is everybody doing? Oh no, the command is not working. Hold on 1 second. Technical difficulties.
Dreamer life. I love it.
That means it's successful already.
Yes.
Yep.
So tonight, guys, this is actually in April is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. So this is the last day. So we are closing out Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month with a POC panel where we are going to share our experiences as caregivers, individuals who were diagnosed or who have autism. And we're just going to have a roundtable discussion and discuss our experiences and things through our eyes. I'm going to ask that you please hold your questions until the end of the panel. If you have a question that you want to type in chat and you don't want to forget, please let one of our mods know and they can copy it and hold on to it for later. Um, we're also going to ask that you please respect the panelists. There might be a possible trigger warning if you are someone who um, wants to get tested or do not know how to get tested. I hope that we are helping you and we are giving you the tools and all of the resources to do so. If anyone wants to start and introduce themselves, I'll go first. I am the female phenom. I'm the female phenom. I am a mommy gamer and also a mom of a child who was diagnosed with ASD, also known as autism spectrum disorder. I am a Twitch streamer. I'm also a founder of two stream teams, the Scream Reapers and the DFP Army. And I'm going to pass the baton over to the next person who wants to introduce themselves.
It'll be me. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Wasp. I am a sibling of someone with ASD. She is 25. I am 26. So we grew up really close, and I'm really excited to share my experience and learn about everybody else's experiences as well.
Awesome.
I'm gonna Calamity Darling. We're gonna pass the
dang.
baton with the name.
Pass the batons now. All right. So I'm Calamity Darling. I am autistic. I have. What else are we supposed to be saying? What are we supposed to be saying?
You can just tell us about yourself.
Oh, I am a content creator on Twitch, and a charity streamer, and a up and coming game developer. So that's what I do.
Yay! Season, you want to go next?
Yeah. I'm season 95, aka Queen Petty. Content creator, gamer, streamer.
That's it. What is your connection to Asperger's or autism spectrum disorder?
My biological son is on the spectrum, and my stepson needs to be tested as well.
Awesome. Okay. And Miss Shandon, you want to go?
Hello. Okay, I can talk now. Hi, I'm Shandon. I am a 30-year-old stay-at-home mom. My background is actually in psychology. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I am pursuing a master's in education right now. And I am also a spectrum mom.
Yay. All right. So we're going to move right along and move on into get to the meat and potatoes of this panel. Like I said, you'll hear experiences from individuals who are on the spectrum, caregivers, and siblings as well. We actually had two panelists who are unfortunately unable to make it. But if you would like to connect with them or follow them on their social medias and possibly ask them questions, I'm sure they will not mind. The first question that I'm going to ask everyone is when your sibling or your child was diagnosed, What signs did you yourself or you see in your child to make you think it was time to get tested?
I'll
Shannon.
go.
Okay.
Um, my oldest son is 6, and he was diagnosed at 3, but I suspected at 1. He was reading, like, doing math, but no actual communication, so couldn't verbally communicate, even though he was reading. And I got a lot of backlash. I got a lot of, I'm seeing things. If he can read, he can talk. He just doesn't want to talk. He's shy. Or because you're used to being around special needs kids, you're just seeing these things and they're not really
Wow.
as valid as you think. But I'm with him every day, so I know. That was pretty much it was honestly an uphill battle, and I had to seek outside resources to get the help I needed.
Wow. And I'm grateful that you did, because a lot of times medical professionals or school professionals do not want to listen to anything that we have to say. They think that we do not know what we're talking about. They are the ones with the degrees, so it'll be all right. Just give it some time. But then if we wait and we let that time pass, it's like, oh, well, they should have been diagnosed earlier. It's ridiculous. Waspa, did you want to go next?
Yeah. So for my sister, she's nonverbal and she needs like constant care and she has difficulty doing stairs and things like that. So for my mom, she started to notice that my sister wasn't talking. She wasn't really walking. She had to always have something in her hand. Even today, she has to carry spoons everywhere she goes. I love that about her. It's one of my favorite things. She would self-soothe and rock back and forth a lot. So that was another issue she was having. Initially, when my mom took her to the doctor and let them know that they were having problems, they just diagnosed her as mentally incompetent and tried to leave it at that and just let her handle that. But she pushed it back on them and they still pushed back and said she was just mentally incompetent. It wasn't until my sister started to have seizures and she got an MRI done and they saw that she had white matter on her brain that was affecting her, that they finally decided to look into placing her on the spectrum for autism. Disorder. So it was already difficult. I can remember, because we're around the same age. So when she was 4, I was like 5 maybe. So I can remember having to hurry up and put my shoes and pants on in the dead of night because my sister had another seizure and we had to take her into the hospital. So it was just a lot on them. But that's when it began.
Oh man. Season, did you want to go next?
Sure. I can't pinpoint the exact year. I think it was in 2015 that he was formally diagnosed. But I suspected, oh God, when he was 3, because David he did not enjoy the age appropriate toys and games and things like that. You giving us little phone thingy with the shapes, and he want to be over here with the handheld video games and that. And my mother's like, no, you're supposed to be playing over here, so you don't play that. Or him up until the age of 6. And the only people who could understand anything that David said was the people that lived in the house. He was like, it was 2015. But he was 3 when he was having the problems and the too smart and too mush mouth. Yeah.
The only people that could understand him was the people that lived in the house.
Yes, that lived in the house because he was mush mouth. We got his tonsil adenoids removed, and
wow,
because he stopped breathing.
Austin
it was
a thing.
Neurological and physical thing. So they took his tonsils and adenoids out, and still the same issue. Then they was like, oh, it's just a developmental thing. He'll grow out of it. And he never grew out of it. And at 1st grade, he said, Mommy, I want to go to speech class. Principal said no. So I said, well, go. Why do you want to? Because I want to learn how to speak properly.
Wow.
Told the principal. And she said, you know what? I made him go tell. And she was like, okay, yeah. 3rd grade, had him in IEP. And at this time, his schedule was completely jacked from breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack, and everything is a routine, like what we did for the day. And life happens and things don't stay on schedule. And next thing you know, he's 11 years old and you're ready to kill him.
Right.
And I went to the doctor and I said, I need help. I can't do this anymore. And she said, how did you manage this long?
Wow.
And that's when I started getting him, doing my research and realizing, oh, there's a name for this. And I knew he had it, but it took till 2015-16 for them to actually formally diagnose and say, oh yeah, he doesn't have ADHD. He has the spectrum.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's honestly, that's probably the hardest thing.
Yes.
And I have been lucky enough to find a pediatrician that will not say he has ADHD because she knows like he's having sensory overload and it just looks like that. If he doesn't outgrow it, then we'll call it that. But I don't want to give him more labels than he needs. And that's part of the problem with mislabeling.
What they do, what the guy told me is that ADHD and Asperger's falls in the same.
That's what I was
because
told.
of the way their brain, the way the brain works. It works faster, and trying to get them to slow it down. Where when I think of ADHD, it's somebody who just is like,
yeah,
you know. So,
but that can also be like stemming, because Austin will like spin around, or he'll like do these things, and I'm like, and I just let him do, because he normally does that when he's in unfamiliar spaces or if it's like a large area. And at first I thought it was like, oh, okay, well, he got room to play. Like, I think that, but then I said, well, are you okay? He was like, this place is really big. And then he'll go back to stemming. And I said, okay, I'll just leave him alone. And then when it's time for us to go, he stops. And then he's like, okay, mommy, let's go. So that's a part of it too. And did you, so once you figured that out, once you had the actual name to it, was it like a sign of relief? Was it like a breath of fresh air? It was
no, because I still had
patience.
I still had the doctor trying to go against and try to give my son some ADHD medicine. He didn't need ADHD medicine. He needed medicine to make him focus.
Right.
To center him. And then they sent us to this other place. Somebody come to the house, and what do they whatever it is, they come to the house and they treated him. They treated him for ADHD. And then they closed his case out. And I said he wasn't supposed to be treated for ADHD. He's supposed to be treated for Asperger's. Yes, that's exactly how I went. Supposed to be treated for Asperger's.
Right.
And we had to go and get a whole nother evaluation that said ASD, spectrum. This is what he needs. A whole year later goes around, and they still don't put my son on where he needs to be. Had to go and get him reevaluated again for the third time.
Wow.
And then that's when I felt relief, because y'all don't listen.
Yeah, they don't. They don't. And I just wanted to let everybody know, not a long time ago, but a long time ago, ASD was known as Asperger's. So if you hear the term Asperger's, it's still the same thing. It just evolved into autism spectrum disorder later on down the line. So when Season's son was diagnosed, her son was diagnosed with Asperger's. So if you hear her using that term, that's what she's referring to.
Asperger's. Yeah, that's ASD is the autism spectrum disorder thing.
Yes. And Calamity, when did you realize or feel that you have autism spectrum disorder?
So it definitely creeped in my mind for a while, but just because of how society, presents autism and how, this one study that was done on cis white boys
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
years ago,
Mm-hmm.
they think that me as a 20-something-year-old Black female is going to act exactly like that, or, I don't have autism. So it took me a long time to sort of unlearn that, coming from a family that isn't very open about mental health, which is very, very popular in the Black communities.
In our communities,
indeed.
yeah.
That having to unlearn that, honestly, stepping away from my family, interestingly enough, is what kind of started slowly bringing me to, the conclusion that I am autistic. First, it was that I was ADHD, and that took a while to learn. Then I learned later that I have both. I'm one of the fun ones that has both of them. So not only do I, present differently because I'm female and they're not studied, but it's paired with ADHD. So people would say, oh, but you don't have a strict schedule. I'm like, you should see the notebooks.
Yes.
However, I get bored with routine, so I need to change the routine, but there always needs to be a routine. So it was kind of a long process of reframing, learning about autism myself, and then recognizing those signs within myself. So it's about a year ago that I was like, I think I'm autistic, because I got treatment for ADHD, and sure, I was able to do school, but I was having meltdowns.
Wow.
Very frequently. So I'm like, this was supposed to fix everything. My parents are happy with me because I'm making A's, making straight A's for the first time in my life, but something was still not clicking. And it wasn't until I realized that I am autistic and started seeing things through that lens, changing that sort of focus, that things started to actually get better.
Wow. So now that everything makes sense, is it a sign of relief for you? Are you still worried about certain things?
I think it's going to be, I'm still pretty new to openly saying that I am autistic, because I just expect people to be like everyone when I was trying to ask questions and find out, to be like, oh, you talk well, you're not autistic, oh, what do you mean? Like, you're able to like hold a job, you're not autistic, ignoring the fact that I'm suffering the entire time when I'm doing these things.
Wow.
I think it's a mix of emotions. I was actually talking with a friend the other day, and I was telling her, I said, it almost feels like I'm grieving, because I can't help but think of, if this had been addressed earlier, if I had known earlier, if I had gotten help in the way I needed earlier, could I have a college degree? Could I have, gotten the straight A's and gotten my American Girl doll in elementary school like I really wanted, if I had just gotten straight A's, So there's a weird sense of loss there. But there are definitely times when, I'll be doing something, I'll be like, why am I doing this? I'll be like, oh wait, it's because I'm autistic, and this is just how I am, and I shouldn't feel like I have to hide it anymore. So it's very mixed. Very mixed.
It is. And I wanted to, well, I want to share my story, but I also want to play a video for anyone in the chat who is, who wants to know how to get diagnosed, who wants to know if they should get diagnosed. I wanted to play this video to give you a better understanding of what a diagnosis actually is and what it entails. There is a resources link for anyone who would like to read up on where to go or what proper steps to take. If you are better, some people are visual learners, or some people like to read by learning. Learn by reading. I'm sorry. So there are listings for the CDC, Kids Health, Healthline, and I encourage everyone to read up on those and educate yourself. Right now, I am going to play a video. This video was made by Minnesota Department of Health and Services. So I found this video on YouTube. I had to edit some of it because a lot of the parents, I did not get consent for them to be on this panel. So I had to edit those parts out and put in the important pieces. But if you would like to watch this video, It is up on YouTube. So we are going to play this right now.
So autism spectrum disorder is what we call a neurodevelopmental disorder, which means that it's a disorder that starts off at childhood and as the child is developing, and will mostly manifest by the time the child is in grade school.
Autism primarily affects a child's ability to communicate and relate to others. Other symptoms include a tendency to repeat words or actions and restricted and repetitive interests or behaviors. A child with a diagnosis of autism can have interests that seem very narrow or unusual, like lining up their toys or just staring at an object. They often insist on following specific routines, and small changes will upset them. They may be very sensitive to noise and experience other sensory issues. These symptoms of autism can range from severe to mild, and that is why doctors now call it autism spectrum disorder, or ASD.
Only about 1/3 of the people diagnosed with autism have an intellectual disability. So it's not everybody. The remaining 2/3 have normal intelligence or high intelligence. Services out there for them. And it is very important to get the child help, to be proactive, because the earlier you get the help, the higher the chances that the child will do better.
A lot of help is available for families with children on the autism spectrum. Families who are interested in receiving services for a child with autism should connect with their local county. They will set up an assessment and support plan, which will help identify what services and supports would be beneficial for your child. Service options may include behavioral treatment, waiver services, personal care assistance, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and educational services. Your child may be eligible to receive services through the Early Intensive Developmental and Behavioral Intervention Benefit or Children's Therapeutic Services and Supports. Some of these services include one-on-one or group treatment sessions for your child, as well as training and support for the whole family. These services respect your values, culture, and preferences. Contact your county and ask for an assessment to see what kind of services you may qualify for.
Studies have shown that the child will learn ways to compensate for their deficits. So the earlier they start to learn the right ways to compensate for the deficit, the higher the chances of being functional. So this is why it is very important for the child to have a diagnosis. And the diagnosis does trigger the treatment. Treatment starting from school, the kind of accommodation they get in school, the kind of the services that the insurance company will pay for.
Disability Hub MN is a great place to start. At the Disability Hub MN, you can chat with an expert who will help you understand your options and get you connected to all available resources and services. Their experts will help you solve problems, navigate the healthcare system, and plan your next steps. Your local county may offer additional services you may be eligible to receive. These services can help a person with day-to-day activities in their home and community. Personal care assistance services include support with activities of daily living. This may involve assistance with meals, transportation, personal hygiene, and other daily activities. A person may also qualify for a waiver. A waiver provides families the freedom to choose the services they need and support their children in participating as active members of their communities. Talk with your county case manager or chat with an expert at Disability Hub MN to learn more about your options.
So the early childhood intervention programs through the school district. So these are the programs that can start the child off on what you call an individualized education plan. So this is called an IEP.
Your local public school offers a wide range of special education programs and services. Your child's educational team will help you create an individual education plan, or IEP, for your child. Special education services are even available for students who attend non-public schools. If you have concerns about a developmental delay, we recommend that you contact Help Me Grow. Help Me Grow is an early childhood screening and intervention program provided through your local school district. Special education services like Help Me Grow can serve as a bridge while your child awaits access to other early intervention services.
All right, so that was a video. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one that had adults in the video, because I would have loved to had that perspective as well. But I wanted to let everybody know that no matter if you are adult, if you are a parent, a caregiver, anyone can get tested. You just need to make sure that you are being tested by a licensed psychiatrist or a the developmental pediatrician. And make sure that you if there, and I also want to say also, to if you feel like that you are alone and you don't understand something, take someone with you if you have that support, so that just in case you forget to ask a question, they can ask it, or they might help you do research so that you can ask the proper questions. So the next portion, I know we all discussed when we knew that we needed to be diagnosed, or when our siblings and our babies. I wanted to ask everybody, what are some of the challenges that you yourself, your sibling, or your child might face having or being diagnosed with ASD?
Answer that one.
Okay, go ahead. She said,
I got
I'm
a list.
ready.
I'm ready.
My son is about to be 17.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been some challenges. We are Black.
Mm-hmm.
That's the number one challenge. And his father is number two. There's nothing wrong with my son.
Oh my gosh.
My son has
my
stopped
gosh.
taking his medicine. My son has stopped his therapy. My son doesn't want his IEP anymore. My son does not have a disability. There's nothing wrong with me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And to see the past year and a half of all the work that
You put in.
from to just down, but he's 17. I'm trying to back away, but that is a challenge when you have family working against you, and you know that this is my baby. Nobody understand my child like I know my child. You know what? How much I had to go through staying up in the middle of the night, dealing with meltdowns, dealing with arguing, dealing with. I want to get away from you so much, I just jump off a bridge. Trigger. Sorry. You know, these are like types of meltdowns that I've had to deal with him, and it gets so worse. It's been worse with him not on his medicine. Not saying that I want him to be medicated but the medicine helped teach him how to express his feelings in a respectful way, and where he could listen. It would slow his thought process down just a bit, so we can have a communication where you can't have a communication because it's this has changed and it needs to be this way, and you put me on the medication because you're just trying to control me. No, honey. No, sweetie. It's okay to have a disability. We all have disabilities.
Right.
And I like the fact that you touched on about support. Luckily I have friends and my sisters. I wish that I could say that Austin's dad was in support. He's not. That's his son. That's his boy. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just being a boy. He's just, and it's frustrating because those days when like yesterday, I had that IEP meeting and I was in that meeting for 3 hours. And the first person I felt like I wanted to call was him, and I couldn't because it would just stress me out even more, because I would have to explain to him, no, what they're saying or what they're doing is not right. This is what needs to happen. He is diagnosed with autism. There's nothing that we can do about it, and that's the way that it is. So I just felt like I'll just talk to the people who are supportive and who will understand it, because if not, it'll just make the situation worse all the time.
That's where it's like difficult, because I've been a single mother,
Mm-hmm.
been an absent father up until 2.5 years ago, and he's still an absent parent. He come in here like super, yeah, I got these toys.
Mhm.
Hey, daddy's
I got
here.
candy. I'm
My
home.
boys
Yes.
is older.
Oh,
Hey,
no.
Yes.
let's get it on.
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't need that. No, you shouldn't be doing that. Don't let your
Mhm.
mother treat you like a baby. Why are you doing this? Have you?
Right.
And then I got to deal with this?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wow.
The
You're-
unparenting of it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How
Good.
about you, Shandon? What challenges have you faced?
There's two. Like she said, being Black is a challenge in itself. Any
Mm-hmm.
POC with anything, especially mental health, because a lot of minority communities overlook anything having to do with mental. You can pray it away,
Yes.
you can talk it away, you can outgrow it, all of these things. So that's probably the biggest thing, because that gets in the way of having support. And also, they want you stupid. They want you
Mm-hmm.
stupid, basically, because when you're educated, that's when you get a lot of pushback.
You're being
Like they
aggressive.
want to belittle you. They want to belittle you. Like, well, you don't have a degree in this, or like, yeah, you
Mhm.
might know some of this, but I am the doctor, or I am this, or I am that. And I feel that from day one, that was my biggest thing, was the pushback. Like me trying to advocate for my kids, and my kids are little, but I want them to see, like, I can advocate for you now because you don't know how, and I want to be able to teach you how to do this for yourself. And honestly, when Cecil said, like, the unparenting, that was probably the hardest on me in the beginning, but I stood my ground, and fortunately, he saw that I was right. He saw that, because at first he was like, no, I think the doctor's right. I think that you're just looking for stuff. I think that he's gonna outgrow this. I think that it's not that big of a deal. Like, he's just doing some kid stuff. It'll go away. And over time, like, I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna sit here with me, you're gonna read these books with me, and you're gonna do this with me, so you can see what I am seeing. Because I am here all day and you're not. And it's just that pushing, just knowing that you need to advocate for your kids, for yourself, for your loved one, whoever it is that you know, whether it's them being on the spectrum or another mental thing, you need to advocate for that, because they don't hear it. Like, they just don't hear it. That's really what it is.
Wasp, what challenges have you and your sister faced while your sister was diagnosed?
So with my sister, I think most of the issues started after she got out of preschool. We were fortunate enough to be pinpointed to an organization that would point you in directions of resources. So we were able to find preschools dedicated to special needs kids. And they were really good with their needs, because she's in diapers, she has difficulty with stairs. So she needs basically attention and detail all day. She needs like an aid. So when she reached elementary school, they started sending her to places. They wanted her to be on the 3rd floor. They wanted her to do stairs. The teacher had a whole bunch of issues. And they made my mom get, and even before this, while she was in school, so my sister self-stimulates a lot. And sometimes what she does as a part of that, she likes to sit on top of things. Like she sits on blocks, she sits on dolls. And because of that, they thought that she was being sexually assaulted. A teacher who wasn't special needs, at all, a regular everyday teacher, felt like because my sister was sitting on something, she was being assaulted. So when I was in the 2nd grade, I had to deal with the Child Protective Services pulling me out of class to interview me and asking about things that were going on at home. And so talking about this to my mom, it was really difficult, because I was unearthing painful memories for her, because she was the adult and I was the kid. So it was just hard to think about that. And so just in the school district alone, we used to have a school dedicated entirely to special needs kids, but because of No Child Left Behind, they started closing down a lot of schools and just shoving them into regular schools. And that just made things difficult. And they needed to do that because they needed to get more money. So it was just hard trying to find people that could anticipate her needs, because she'll be at one school and they're like, well, she doesn't need this, and you need to go to Cleveland Clinic and have a doctor write on paper that your child needs this. So once they got that done, by that time she was almost out of school. And it was when my mom got my sister out of the school district that she was able to find outside resources that really helped her. Like, she has someone that comes to the house for her being autistic, and they take her and put her in Special Olympics and stuff. And she has friends at this care center she goes to. So her quality of life has dramatically increased once she got outside of the school district. And it was just difficult watching my mom have to push back on doctors and push back on people thinking that something fishy is going on in the household because of the way that my sister operates. And my mom is kind of worried about like how to medically take care of her because she can't verbally tell us that something's wrong with her, and COVID is going on now, and one day she's going to have to get a COVID vaccine, and we have to take her to the dentist, and there's just all these things that people don't think about that factor into having a child or a sibling that's autistic. So that's been our drama.
I'm happy you said that, because that's one of my biggest fears that I honestly never talk about, is because a lot of children on the spectrum do self-stimulate, they self-harm, they do these dangerous things. And because I am a Black woman and I am home all day, I know that people are probably looking at me like, beating on her kids. She's probably beating on her, or because they're like, it's quiet now, but my kids are screamers. They're very sensory, like loud. And so I know I'm just waiting on the day one of my neighbors call the police on me because my kids been screaming for an hour.
That has happened to me twice. That has happened to me twice. The police was sent to my home because they wanted to do a welfare check. And the first set of officers that came in were rude, were nasty. They wanted to take Austin in the room and talk to him, and they wanted to figure, and I said, he's not going to respond to you because he doesn't know you. And they then said to me, well, you might want to get a handle on that because the neighbors might call again. So I said, you might want to get training on special needs. Don't come into my home and tell me what I need to do as a parent, because I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. The second set of officers that came, they were pleasant, they were nice. And as soon as I opened up the door, the officer said, and I'm getting emotional because dealing with this is hard as a parent. And when you find that one person that understands and that get it, it's like, oh my God, like, where have you been all my life? You know what I mean? And he said to me, he said, well, he's on the spectrum. And I said, yes. I said, how did you know? He said, I have a sibling who's on the spectrum. I have a family member. And what warmed my heart was he sat down on the floor and played with Austin to calm him down. And he said to me, he said, well, do you need to go for a ride? Like, he was joking with me. He said, do you need to go for a ride? He said, I'll just turn the sirens on and let you do. I said, no, I'm fine. I said, I am fine. But that is, in being, like you said, a Black parent, my son is Black. Those are my fears, is that what is going to happen when he gets pulled over? What is going to happen if there are cops with guns, lights pointing at him, and they don't understand he has a sensory issue? And it sucks because I had to go to my nearest precinct, talk to the shift commander, talk to the captain, and they had their little pads out and they were writing down everything I was saying, but no one acted on anything. Governor's not returning my calls. Nobody is available to talk to me. It's rough. It's really rough.
I wanted to say something real quick. I want to touch base on something. If no one's realized it, there, like with the five of us, there are so many different aspects of autism. And I did not realize it before I got my son tested, that the nonverbal, because I do have a friend whose son is nonverbal. He just grunts, but he can walk around, he can dress himself and do everything. Yeah. My uncle, who we grew up, he's mentally retarded. He ate paint chips, but he can't do math past grade 1, reading past grade 2. And then Wasp, your sister, hard development. There are so many different aspects of different autism. So when it came to, okay, well, my son is high functioning autistic. That's the Asperger's, how they was high functioning.
I hate that word.
It was just like,
I hate it.
Okay, now I gotta fight to get everybody else to realize it. So there's like so many different aspects. So when you think of autism, you're thinking of somebody who literally cannot do anything for themselves, and then you have here you got my son who has done cooking, and he's won awards, and he can go in there and toss up a meal. But yes, when he gets pulled over by a police officer, I fear, because if it ain't right, it ain't right.
Yeah.
And he will not shut up.
He definitely won't.
Yeah, and that just makes me
Fear.
think about how like over half of the people that experience police brutality are people that are disabled, and we are the type of people that become victims of that. On top of being black and disabled is just so many layers.
Sword.
Yeah.
It's a double sword. And Calamity, what are some of the challenges that you faced while realizing that you were on the spectrum?
As I said, it was sort of a over time, and it kind of came more and more and more to the forefront of my mind. Because for years it was like, maybe this. And I was like, no, because XYZ. And then I learned more and I said, well, maybe this. I'm like, I mean, I don't think so, because, and then eventually it came to the forefront where it was like, you have so much evidence. What is holding you back? Right. And one of the biggest challenge has been that I will probably, I'm sitting here talking about it here now, so it'll probably come up, but this is something that I'm probably never going to discuss with my parents unless they ask me first. Because the conversation is almost not worth it. You know what I mean?
Why?
You have a question?
Because when I asked,
well, when I say why, it's a question, but it's not a question, because it's a question because I know why you won't, but then it's also, why do you care?
Right.
So in order for them to understand, like, this is where I'm at, this is what I have an issue, this is me. And just, they can either accept it or don't. But at least you've put it out there in the air of, this is how it is. You know how I do this instead of this, and I don't like this instead of that. Well, this is why. Oh, well, did you go and get checked out? I'm telling you, this is why. This is it. I don't need somebody else to tell me this. I'm telling you, this is who I am. If I was to say, I'm a guy, would you say, did you go to a doctor and find out if that's how you are? No, I'm telling you, this is who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think I am trying to work to get to that point, just because it was such a struggle trying to, after I was already moved out of the house, make my parents understand I had ADHD. That in itself took years and years and years of, educating myself, trying to educate them. And even now it's like, oh, I guess you probably could. You could be right.
Wow. And that breaks my heart, because I feel like as parents, we have a responsibility to do everything in our power to make sure that our children are set up for success. And if they have a different way of learning, if they have a different way of processing things, we may get frustrated. It's a human reaction. But at the end of the day, if that child is not comfortable enough to come to us and say, I know that you want me to get good grades, but I just can't, we're supposed to act on that, and we're supposed to do something about that. It's not just supposed to be the normal stuff like, oh, you're lazy, you just don't want to do the work, you just don't. That's horrible. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, because I couldn't imagine. I couldn't.
I'm guilty
of doing that.
Just these past few days, since David's been back on Tuesday, it literally took him to explain to me why he will not. The teacher said, you gotta do all this work. This is the makeup stuff that you need to do. You need to get this stuff in so your grades can get put up. Mom, I'm trying to tell you something. They got a quota. And so when the people high up get on them, then they want to get on us and everything. I don't have to do that.
He's right.
I can do all this other stuff.
He's
back
right
here.
He's
easy
right.
stuff,
Can't
and
get over it.
my grade will still be wherever. I don't got to do all this stuff. Why? I don't understand that. This is stupid. This is not. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go do this, and it's like, okay, you know what?
You just had to let it go. You just had to let go.
You're 17.
Some
You want me to
battles
stop
you just
treating you
can't
like a
have.
baby?
Right? Pick your battles. And I remember that
Pick
was
'em.
one of the things that Season used to tell me, because when Season was like my go-to when Austin was first diagnosed, and I remember her looking at me and she's like, Phenom, just pick your battles. Just let them have it. Let them cry. It's okay. But as a parent, those are our babies, and you want to
Right.
fix it. You want to find out what's wrong. You want to make sure that they are okay. But I am learning, you know what? If you want cereal for dinner, you just going to get it. Like, I'm
You're going to go crazy.
Right.
You will literally
Go
you will
crazy.
lose your life. You will lose your, not kill yourself, but you will lose you trying to, oh, you can't do that. Sometimes you just have to, okay.
Yeah, just let them do let them
No,
do
girl,
them.
we have a whole menu on my refrigerator like we are in school.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way it eliminate a problem. Let's just get rid of the problem. You know what? On this
Exactly.
day we're gonna eat this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's what we're eating on Tuesday. And he will
Right.
tell you, like, oh, it's Wednesday. That means today we're eating chicken, rice, and vegetables. Okay, man. That's one less thing we gotta talk
Austin
about.
is the same way. He's like, Mommy,
One less thing
it's
we gotta talk about.
Friday. It's chicken nugget night. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Here you
Yep.
go.
Yeah, I do want to say, just because like I know that, and I always feel bad talking about my parents.
Mm-hmm.
They mean well.
Yeah.
They're not hateful people.
They're not
They're
perfect.
they're human, and they're very set in their ways.
Mhm.
And
And that, yep.
I have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. It's not from lack of care.
Right.
It's just that they don't care to,
To change.
even as
To
an
learn.
adult who lives in my own body with my own brain, maybe say, you know a little bit about yourself than we do.
Mm-hmm.
You're their baby.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
I didn't tell y'all how old I was. Just know that I'm 35 in my brain, but you're their baby. So
Yeah.
however old I'm old enough to be your mama. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know.
understand. I understand. No, I really am. But shh, okay.
Yes.
But I understand as a parent, because I know I'm your parent. I know more than you. You don't know
Mhm.
much. You just getting out here. You don't know much, and it
Mhm.
literally takes a lot. Like David has been telling me for years, like, Mom, no, this is not right, and no, you're gonna do what I said because I'm the mom, and
Right.
I'm gonna do this. Okay, you're gonna do. If we're gonna do if we're gonna get these people off your butt, you need to do it this way. And then he just broke it down. Sometimes you just got to catch your parent on that right time where they're actually listening.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put that little bug in there.
She said that's the problem.
It can be done. It can be done. Change is hard. Change is one of them things that just take time, but it can be done.
Yes, indeed.
It's just difficult because being autistic, it's like I don't know if a catch-22 is the right phrase there. I never understood that phrase, but it's sort of like in trying to explain, would get so riled up that I couldn't. And then anything I was trying to say, even before I got riled up, any good points I made, poof, they don't matter anymore. You're emotional. You just need to go sit in a corner and pray and read your Bible, and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys ever realize and think? There's another epiphany I had this week.
My gosh.
Me and David are the same. Me and my mother are the same. I haven't been diagnosed, but everything that he has done from little, I did the same thing. And my mother did the same. My mother is 60 some years old, and she's stuck in her. There's no changing her at all. And it's like, this is why we can't, because like you said, you're trying to say what you need to say. You get so frustrated and everything. And your brain is going a moment, but you're like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is this. But then you got them over here like, no, this is. So if you think of it like that, like we're literally, where did I get this from? I got it from one of y'all. So now
Yes.
Oh, I have my theories.
Yeah.
It's a conversation that I know won't happen because that will
Right.
start fires, and I just do not have the energy
Oh
to
my
deal with them.
gosh.
I already they say it's genetic, and I say,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is.
It's definitely
I
is.
feel like that a good percentage of things are passed down, but some of them are like, okay, I'm not claiming that. Like, that is all you, and I am not. I'm just not
And
going to
it's
claim
always
that.
the little
like that's
stuff
your
too.
thing. You
Yeah.
got that somewhere else.
Yes. And so the next question I wanted to ask, how open as parents, as individuals, as siblings are you to receiving help? And what struggles do you face when you know you need help, you know you need that babysitter, you know you need help with just calming yourself down or resources or things? How open are you to receiving help, and how do you get to that point where you want the help?
I'll go first because I'm working on that now.
Say.
I realize that I am more than willing. I take all the help I can get when it's directly for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm gonna make sure they're in speech. I'm gonna make sure that they're going to OT. I'm gonna set their schedule up. They're gonna be doing A through Z things to help get them through their day. But then at the end of the day, when it's time for me, we may or may not get to that because we might make time for that
Right.
tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the point that I am at.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Calamity.
working on it.
Yeah, I am too. You're not alone.
I'm a
Calamity.
Leo. Sorry. I'm a Leo.
Calamity, what about you? How open are you?
I probably say or express that I'm more accepting to it than I actually am, because you have to understand I grew up with it, and even though it wasn't named, it doesn't mean it wasn't there.
Right.
So I'm very used to having to figure it out myself. I'm very used to having to just shove it down and deal with it until one day it just explodes and I'm having a meltdown and I can't go into work because I'm literally like on my floor and I can't move.
Wow.
And I now, because I do know I can put a name to it, I can say what I have used to be called Asperger's. I know that due to the founder where Asperger's came from, being a little problematic, they have especially tried to kind of phase that name away. But I got by enough that I was just told I wasn't trying hard enough, so when I did have problems or when things did come up, it's like, well, you're not trying hard enough. So that sticks with you,
Right.
that doesn't just go away. So when I do have problems, it's like, well, you're not trying hard enough. You're not trying hard enough, and that's a narrative I've been trying to unlearn. So I am trying to be more open to help, even when it comes to content creation, which is something I love doing and enjoy. I often find that my amazing mods, they'll say, Calamity, if you need help,
Oh my
you need to
God.
let us know.
And
I go, okay, I need help with this. And they're
right.
like, okay, we got you. And they are amazing for that. I appreciate them so much. My sister is very similar. If I start saying, oh, well, I should be able to do this, she'll say, why? You're having a hard time.
Right.
Like my sister's my absolute best friend, the only person in my family that I've told. And I actually got a message from her today. I'm going off on a tangent, I'm sorry. But I actually got a message from her today where she had to basically stand up to somebody who was speaking incorrectly about autism. She learned this about me like 2 months ago.
I love it.
Understand it.
I love it.
2 months ago. And for her to just say, okay, like I've always known you. I just know how to describe you easier in medical terms. She's like, but it's still you. And
Right.
That's been a really big help in helping me ask for help and reframe it, that it doesn't make me weak. It doesn't mean that I'm, not competent. It's just that I need to do things a certain way and it's okay. Yeah.
How about you, Wasp? How were you? Because I know from my oldest son, Nate, there are times where he's just like, Mom, I got it. And then there's times where he like, Mom, I don't care if it's raining. I just want to go play basketball. Like, I need to remove myself. As a sibling, how open are you to just, as that big sister, as that protector, how open are you for help, to receiving help?
I've always been around to help my mom. Even when I was younger, I would always try to like infer what my sister needed even before she could talk. So even now, I like to speak for animals the way I had to speak for my sister when I'm inferring what things need. So I've always been around to try and support my parents the best way that I can, to the extent that they will let me do it. So for my mom and my dad, they're really internal and really private about their experience with my sister. So they don't really take her to large functions or movie theaters and things like that.
Same.
So they just stay at home. And so I'm a homebody too, because I've been a homebody my whole life, because I really didn't have friends over, because my sister she just loves people. She wants to befriend you, but she doesn't know how to socialize in the way that would be normal for you. She likes to pull your zipper up or put your hood on top of your head or do little things like that. And so I feel like it's really difficult for my parents to trust me or just anyone to watch over my sister so that they can go and live a life outside of this. I just feel like most of their time is just spent at home with my sister. So I do my best to be the support that they need, because I'm their daughter, so they can't say, oh, well, I don't want some person just watching my daughter who knows what they'll do. So I just try to be there for them the best that I can. I know that I've always watched them do their best to try and give my sisters resources. Like, they had a tablet where she could press buttons for her knees, and then she went and she deleted the app, but she still had her music. She still had her music app on there.
Right, that's
she deleted
important.
it. So, yes. She was like, she said, "What is this?" And she deleted that. So they just do what they can with what she gives them. You can't make Ashley, my sister, do anything she does not want to do, and they just try to accommodate and be flexible with what she's got going on. So I'm just trying to be a trooper. I don't want them to worry about what's going to happen to her when we pass away. Like, don't even worry about it. I got it. I already knew. You know, this has been my best friend since I was born. We're only 11 months apart. So I'm a ride or die.
That's awesome. I know for me, the struggle comes in with, my sisters are always like, just let me watch him. It's okay. But it's always that fear of him going to their house and they're like, listen, this is not what we expected.
Yeah.
And it was fine, but we'll see you at Thanksgiving. And that's always my worst fear. And I never shared this with anybody, but the reason why I am like that is because my dad, he's militant, he's in the military, he's in his 70s. And I remember him saying to me, I said, Dad, I just need to just sit in the car. And I said, I just need it for a minute. I took him over there, and that wound up turning into like me just driving. I just needed to drive. I just needed to get away. And he called me and he's like, well, what time are you coming back? And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to put this responsibility on anybody else. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to deal with it. I had him. He's my baby. And I realized that is unhealthy. I know that I hear it all the time from my friends, from my sisters, from my oldest son. Like, you need to just start taking care of you. But it's hard when you're constantly worried about certain things, or you're worried about not necessarily the burden, but you're worried about the kind of pressures or the kind of experiences that you're putting on other people, and you don't want to feel bad about that. It's been rough. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get there, but it's an experience. It's an experience. I think season. So that leads to my next question. And yes.
Oh, sorry. What I was going to say is, I don't like asking for help. I like providing help. I don't really like asking for help. I will literally try till it drives me crazy. Or I come into the chat with y'all like, let me tell you what happened. But I try. I don't like asking for help because to me, can't nobody do it like I can.
Exactly.
Right.
And if anybody else tries to, they're just going to mess it up. They're not going to do it right. And I need to know what's going on, how it's going on. And so
that's normal. That is normal.
It's a lot to just get to ask
Mm-hmm.
for help or imply that I need help and nobody actually helps me, then it's okay because
That's
Yes.
worse.
I
Yeah,
asked
that's
you,
That
but you
worse.
is
didn't.
worse.
But you didn't help me. Well, you
Mhm.
didn't ask. Well, I mentioned it, so you should have known that I needed help.
Exactly.
And I've
Exactly.
like in my house is even a little bit more different because not only is my oldest son on the spectrum, my middle son more than likely is on the spectrum too. He at the very least has sensory disorder, like at least a sensory disorder. So
Mhm.
it's like, how can I ask somebody to not just take care of one
One.
special needs child, but multiple, and then we have another baby? Like for
Mhm.
me, that's just a lot. Like I don't want to put that on no one person because they're my kids, they're not their kids. Like they're my responsibility.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm sorry. So that leads me to my next question. This might be a little bit difficult to answer, and it might be a trigger for everyone else. What was some of the most hurtful or annoying comments or things that you experienced while being on the spectrum, your siblings being on the spectrum, or your babies?
Do I need to go?
I'll go. Volunteers tribute. So I think for my family and my mom, it was people not understanding that my sister was different and trying to insist and infer that everything will be okay in time. You know, my son, he didn't talk for 10 years. Your son might be like that too. And it's just like, that's not how my sister works. We know what's going on with my sister. We're there with her all day. So that was just hard for my mom to have to deal with that, coming not only from outsiders, but from family members as well. And having people make jokes like, if there's a fire, she better make some noises, you know, making fun of the type of ways my sister uses to communicate as a family member. That's hurtful. And for me, I'm always going to be protective of my sister. And I'm just at the age where I don't need to be fighting. I don't be trying to fight. But
I
if somebody
mean,
says something about my sister, I'm just going to see red. I'm just going to see black.
Right.
Because I'm her protector. She can't protect herself. She doesn't know any better. And she doesn't know, but I know. And I have a problem with it. So it's just hurtful that people in your family or outsiders just feel comfortable enough interfering and stepping in and having some, you know, having people who are supposed to protect you turn on you in a way. Like child protective services are supposed to be protecting families, not interrogating my family and harassing us because they're not equipped to handle a child with special needs and aren't aware of that situation.
Exactly.
So that's been my pain.
What about you, Kalami? What are some of the most hurtful or annoying things that you have experienced?
definitely one of the more recent ones was kind of the solidifying factor. What that kind of made me say, you know what, this conversation with my parents isn't going to happen. But I was asking questions about my past, and I was sort of, because they said, you know, when I was like looking into just different things for late diagnosis, they said, ask your parents about how you used to be when you were younger. And I was trying to talk to my dad about it. And I kind of, and he just didn't quite get where I was trying to come from with all these questions. And so I sort of said a comment like, oh, because this is something that like people with autism have. And he just cut me off. He said, there's nothing wrong with you. And he said, that's not
Oh
what
my
I was
God.
asking.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't say there is anything wrong with me. I
Right.
was saying that I might be autistic.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the same thing.
It's
Yeah, they're just so
not.
skeptical of the medical system that they feel like somebody's always out to get them or is trying to exploit them. It's difficult for my parents. Like they need therapy, but I'm still not ready to have that conversation with them about them being more open to receiving help. Because with them, it's always someone out to get them, someone trying to attack them. And that's just been a defense
Yeah.
mechanism from being Black. So it's just
Yes.
tough.
Yeah.
What about you, Season? What are some of the most hurtful or annoying comments or annoying experiences that you have went through?
Sugar. So, my son had begged to be with my mother for years. Nana, remember you said I could come over your house and I could stay the night with you? Nana, remember you said I could stay the night? Like for years, he remembered conversations that he had when he was 2 that she was supposed to let him come over his house. He was born in 2004. In 2012, he finally got to go and be over Nana's house. she was like, yes, you get to help me put my flyers up for the flea market, this, that, and the other. So I spent years prepping my mother on him and how they have similarities and certain things that they are particular about. Like I thought I did good. Did not. Spoke with David. Hey, David, how was your time with Nana? Did you have fun? Nana hit me. What?
Oh no.
Nana, she did like this. And so why did she do that? Well, because the cousin did something and she thought that I was lying and she hit me like this. And then I cried and then she hit me again.
I just saw red. I just saw red.
And you hit my son in the head?
That is my worst fear. Not to feel like my family members would do that, but when you think about daycare facilities and I remember they wanted my son to go to a program during the day during the summertime. And I'm like, no, like you can come to my house and we can all sit down and do this together. But no, he's not. No.
And that, my mother tried to blew it off. I don't care if we're in a flea market, whatever. How dare you put your hand on a mentally, and I know how she hit him because she used to hit me in the head like that. It's the old school mama backhand, pow, and your head whole rat. I know, trigger. Like I said, it was a trigger because how dare you? He's has a mental disability. You don't put your hands on the mental child in their head. You don't do that. And there's nothing really wrong with him. And like, you will never. She just saw him last year. Cause like, no, you can't. That is the most that out of everything I've ever gone through with the father and everything, that is the one thing that is just like, my mother, no, that was it. That's all.
Oh my goodness. What about you, Shandon? What was some of the most hurtful or annoying things that you have experienced?
Definitely that there's nothing wrong with them. That's probably like at the top because that's usually almost always coming from people close to you. And it's like, you're close to me. You should know, like, you see me with him. You see the struggles we have every day. Like, clearly there's something going on. Like, we get oh, he's just spoiled. Oh, he just needs a whooping. Oh, y'all just let him do whatever he wants. Like, no, that's not what's happening.
Right.
Like, we have a whole program we're trying to follow. And if you're not going to do the program with us, you cannot be around us because it undoes all the work that we do. Like, I don't spend 20 hours a week doing these things for him to help him be able to better get through his day, better be able to socialize with people and do the things he wants to do for it to be undone like this. Like, I'm like, we're not spending all this time on that. And then when we do go out, because before COVID, I used to take them out on outings, even if it was a little difficult for me, because I wanted them to have those experiences and the outside people, especially like if he having a meltdown because it's just too much going on.
Oh my God, yes.
You just gonna let your baby act like that in this store? Well, what are you gonna do about it? Because this is how he is. Like, mind your business and stay over there. That's probably like the worst. Like when we're in the store and other people make comments. Because I'm not trying to go to jail.
Right.
You know, I don't want to go to jail because you're in Walmart yelling at me about my kid.
Exactly. And I think it's funny that you touched on that. I'm sorry, Colleen, were you saying something?
No, I just said I don't see why it's their business, but anyway.
Exactly.
It's not their business, but people always feel a way about telling. It's weird. People feel they have a right and they're entitled to tell other people how to raise their children when there's no book anywhere I ever saw that tells anybody how to do anything with their kids.
Yeah.
What frustrates me is if they're that bold to walk up to you and tell you how to raise your kid, how come they can't be that bold to walk up to you and ask if you need some help?
Exactly.
That's what gets me.
That very rarely happens to me. And whenever it happens, I appreciate that more than anything else because that is few and far between. It's more negative comments than people, well, what can I do to help you? What does he need? What do you need? Do you need a break? Like, it's very seldom that.
It is. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I had two experiences that you're never prepared for anything, but I was never prepared for this. A lot of people don't know that people who are on the spectrum, they have a hard time with transitioning, and you have to prepare them for that before these things happen. And Austin wanted to go to the park. He wanted to go to, that was his thing. It was warm outside and he wanted to get out of the house. And we went to the park and I wasn't thinking, and I'm like, okay, time to go. And he's like, what? You didn't tell me. Like, we didn't have the timer. Like, what are you
Timers.
talking about? And he went off and he's crying walking up the street. I'm crying walking up the street. And I noticed this guy, he had his phone.
I want to be so sad when I'm in the car seat.
I know you're sad when you're in the car seat. And I'm looking and I'm like, what is he doing? And I see him and another individual in the passenger seat, and they were laughing and recording him. And me not thinking, I'm charging the car because I was getting ready to yank him out of that car and do some things to him. And then when I got to the car and I'm like, are you recording me? And he's like, he needs his ASS whip, and drove
Hate
off.
that.
Drove off. Another experience was when I took him to the playground, and there were other kids out there. Austin doesn't know about boundaries. He doesn't know about social distancing. All he knows is that he sees little people like him, and he's like, yes, like this is COVID. I'm ready to get out the house. And he's like, I'm tired of this. But this particular time, it was before COVID. And there were wood chips on the playground. And he has this thing where if he finds new things, he rubs them across his mouth, or he like tries to like rub them, just to feel them and get a feel for it. So after he was like, okay, I love these wood chips, he starts throwing them around and rubbing them on his head and stuff. And I'm like, okay, he'll take a bath later. And I heard a kid say, Mommy, what's wrong with him? And the parents said, I don't know, but you need to stay away from him. Just come on over here. You don't need to play with him. And I'm looking at her, and I knew the things that were going to come out of my mouth was not going to be pleasant, and it was not going to end well. And I took my baby and I said, you know what? I said, we got 5 more minutes and then it's time to go. When you hear this sound, it's time for us to go. And he said, okay, Mommy. And he's playing, and she scoops her baby up and takes them on the other side of the playground to play with other kids. And I got in my car, I turned his favorite music up, and I cried all the way home. And I said that to say that a lot of times people are ignorant, right? They're ignorant, and they choose to stay ignorant, and they choose to remain ignorant, and they do not want to ask questions because for some reason people feel like that vulnerability, I'm messing up my words, is, well, if I ask a question, then I'm going to look stupid. Or if I ask a question, then she's going to know more than me. And it's like, I would rather you ask than assume. I would rather you, like you said, ask for help, or ask, what can I do to help soothe him? Or, is this common? Is there things that we need to do? Things like that. And it's like, this world is so cruel. And I want my child to be in a public setting, in schools, events, all of these things. But I know he might have a hard time going to concert if he forgets his headphones. I know that if he's driving in a car and a police or a fire truck is going past him, he's going to go into a panic. And nobody is going to understand that. And which leads me to, there was a lady that was on TikTok. She's on the spectrum. And she went into Wingstop and she took her service dog there. She took her service dog in and she's waiting for her food. And what people do not realize is, if individuals who are on the spectrum are in an unfamiliar place, they're in a large place, there's a lot of people, they already have anxiety. So you're going to see them with cervix dogs. You're going to see them stimming. You're going to see them with sensory items just so that they can calm themselves to do everyday things and get through. And a customer behind her decided that she wanted to disrespect her, call her out her name, and say how disgusting she was for having a dog. And it broke my heart because I knew what she was going through. And it made me angry because if I had been there, I don't care if she was blood or not, it wouldn't have been a pretty situation at all. And that's why I always try to educate people. You know, he doesn't need a nap. Something happened. His zipper is stuck, or you looked at him. He's fine. And with that, that leads me into our next video where we're going to talk about meltdowns. And there's an awesome little guy by the name of, let me get his name correctly. I'll make sure it's not incorrect. There is a young man named Liam, and his parents did a series about him on YouTube. And they are documenting what they go through on a daily basis, and they're documenting his meltdowns. So we're going to have a quick look at that so you guys can see. I tried to find one with adults because I wanted to get that out there, that the spectrum is not just categorized for children also. Adults go through these same struggles or different ones, okay? So we're going to take a look at this video, and we will be right back.
Can you videotape him, please? Thank you.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
Whoa.
Liam, that's not cool, Liam. That's not cool at all.
I'm not.
Liam, what does that...
I'm throwing away the table. I'm mad. Mad. I'm mad.
Do you need a squeezy? Do you need a squeezy punch? You okay?
Still mad. What are my options?
Take a deep breath. No, a deep breath. One deep breath. Count to 10.
Mine is hard.
No, it's not.
Hopeless.
No, it's not. Count to 10.
8, 9, 10.
Look around at what you did. No, I'm serious. Look around at what you did. Was this a good option?
No.
Spilling the water, throwing the chair, throwing Emma's cup, breaking it probably. That was all a good option?
No.
So what is a good option for you? No.
Don't. No.
Am I yelling at you?
Huh?
Am I yelling at you?
I don't know anything.
Am I yelling at you?
No, but
So why
I
are you
don't
yelling
know it.
So why are you yelling at me?
But I don't know the
Okay.
answer.
You do know the answer. You have to stop and think about it.
Huh? Oh, what does it hurt? Stop me.
Okay, why don't you go sit right here? Sit down. Sit down.
Okay. So that video, once again, was an example of a meltdown. What a lot of people might see as a child who is spoiled, or a child that has a tantrum, or a child who just wants their way. What we saw, and I'm sure anybody else who is on the spectrum who can identify, is that he was trying to express his emotions. Something was frustrating him. There was a trigger. Some event has happened that he was unable to express himself about, and it caused him to have a meltdown. Not a tantrum, not a temper tantrum, but a meltdown. And I want everybody to understand the difference. Children on the spectrum, adults on the spectrum, they process things totally different. And if they're unable to get you to understand how they are feeling or what they are thinking, and you are not getting it, it causes a frustration, and sometimes it can cause friction. So I really, really, really would like you guys to check Liam out on YouTube, and the link is the channel is called Autism Awareness with Liam, and I strongly encourage you to check that out. I wish that I had more resources for adults so that you guys can see it. But I really want the world and everyone to understand what a meltdown is, and to encourage you guys and challenge you guys to educate yourself, ask questions. If you don't know anything, if something does not look like that is in your everyday normal, to ask those questions and try to get a better understanding without judgment. Let me see.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Can we please, like, I know that it's like hard and it's like different and y'all not used to seeing this, but when y'all see people recording people and to like post it on the internet, please don't do that. Or when you see them videos floating around of people like having meltdowns or kids in the store and all the comment, like, please do not engage in that. Because 9 times out of 10, when you see the kids in the store that their parents need to whoop, or you see somebody holding down a child in the store, restraining a child, they are a special needs child. And it's not fair to be in the comments telling them how bad of a parent they are, or how they should be disciplining their kids, or all the things they should be doing, or all the things they're doing wrong, because 9 times out of 10, they are already having a difficult day. And it's not fair to them as a parent when they're doing their best for people that they don't even know to just record them and disrespect their privacy and tell them how to run their life.
Instead of recording them.
Instead
of recording them or I'm sorry.
We all about to be in here crying.
I got so upset. From when you were talking about the park and the guy with the camera, because you came to us right after that happened, and my face has just been that, like, y'all have no clue what we go through. My son is 16, and I don't care what anybody says. I still go through stuff. It's just he can verbally say, I don't like you, and I want to jump off a bridge so I can be away from you. But that's just his way of expressing he's frustrated. But to sit there and record, to sit there and stare or laugh, I'm like, oh. The lady, when I took my son to go get his driver's license, her son had a meltdown because he couldn't get his driver's license, and he's cussing her out, and she's embarrassed. And I looked at this lady and I'm like,
you want to
young stupid me would have been like, look at that. But instead I walked up to her and I just hugged her, and I wouldn't let her go. Like, instead of staring at people and looking at people, really understand, because you don't understand. Like, y'all think that it's funny, and y'all, oh wow, I feel embarrassed. But don't you think we're embarrassed too?
Exactly. And that's why I challenge.
And it's frustrating.
It is. And I challenge
because they're
people.
trying to talk to you when you can't help. Like, it's that not being able to give your kids what they need and not being understand. That disconnect is painful in and of itself without all the extra stuff from everybody else.
There's literally a difference between disobedience and a disability. Defiance and a disability. That's the thing that I put into my house. I have a son with ADHD, and I have my Aspie, and I have taught them there is a difference between disability, disobedience, and when you educate yourself on the difference, then you'll know, oh, okay, yeah, that child, yeah. But this one, come here, parent. Let me sit here. What can we do to help? Or just hug them. Go up to the parent and just give them a hug. You don't know how it's like a release. It's a huge release to have somebody just no words, no nothing. Just hug them.
Yeah.
That was the best thing I could have done. And I go and hug her, and then here comes somebody else. Oh man,
Mm-hmm.
You was just over there laughing.
Exactly.
Now you want to come follow the leader.
And these websites like the Shade Room, World Star, I always tell people all the time, when you are sharing these things, when you are retweeting these experiences, you're boosting this. The only way that this is going to stop is if they don't get any kind of traction on these things. They don't get any kind of responses or any boost on these posts. Because at the end of the day, what should be boosted and what should be posted are experiences so that people can know, and an autistic individual can say, you know what, I had a rough day, this happened. Or a mom can say, I had a rough day, this happened. Not the person that's on the other side of that camera looking to get clout or looking to get entertainment for that. It's not fair. And then what that leads me to is, if you could change one thing within and outside of the autistic community, what would that be for everybody?
Black folk need to get educated.
Mm-hmm.
They need to toss. If we are so quick to toss spanking our kids because our parents spanked us and their parents spanked us, then we should be able to toss the ignorance behind mental illness. Seriously, because it's a crutch. It's just as damaging as sexual abuse.
It is.
In the Black community. Actual physical child abuse within the Black communities. And I don't want anybody getting to, oh my God, they're I don't know how to loosely say or how, but what I'm trying to say, it happens. And we turn a blind eye to it. And it's always the hush hush secret. Everybody need to be quiet and put that person over there. We need to stop doing that. Educate yourself. It's just it can't be that's the white people's disease. Because really, do we need to go down the history?
Exactly.
Educate. That's the one most. Educate yourself.
How about
as soon as you have a child and your child come out ass speed, and it's like, oh,
now we know. What about you, Wasp? What is one thing that you would change within and outside of the autism community?
I think the people who are supposed to be responsible for protecting us need to have more thorough training to handle situations like medically. My mom was talking about how my sister needed medication administered, and the sisters are looking at her like, how are we supposed to give her medicine? And she's looking at them like, y'all don't know how to give a special needs kid medicine. Like, this is your job? Don't you already do this? So it's just frustrating that there isn't resources being taught to enough people. I don't think there's enough focus on it, and a lot of people don't understand it. So they're not equipped to handle it, and they're not prepared for it, which costs people their lives time and time again. So I just really want people to get educated. I'm thankful that a lot of people came out to this panel so that they could just have a breadcrumb of what it's like to be in your body every single day in your shoes, so that they can go and educate others. Talk to people. Stop letting your friends use the words retarded and oh, that person, I'm autistic, I'm doing this as a joke, because it's not funny. Those are real life people that live. So hold yourself accountable, hold your friends accountable, and just do what you can to support people. Be somebody that someone can look to as a beam of light and support.
Yes. What about you, Calamity? What are some of the things that you would change?
A lot of the organizations that are for autism but do not speak to, involve, or even like talk to, like they don't involve autistic people. And I've seen so many, like especially like TikToks and stuff of them being like, we need to help autistic people. And the autistic person's like, actually, I can tell you exactly how. They're like, I wonder how we could do it. And they're like, actually, I am autistic and I can actually tell you. And they're like, if only there was some way we could know what's going on in their heads. Here's a puzzle piece. Like,
right.
Like the hashtag nothing about us without us is so important, because listen to autistic people. Autistic voices need to be uplifted, need to be heard. Listen to
Yes.
what they're saying. They are individuals who can express their needs if you just let them. And that does not stop at people who are verbal.
Yes, indeed.
That's my big thing.
What about you, Shandon? What are some of the things that you would change?
First off, being open to accepting that things are not what you think. So stop telling people they can pray it away. Stop telling people that they can outgrow it. Just be open and receptive to hearing and understanding that this is a real thing and that there are tools out there available to you, because they're not going to tell you the resources if you don't know to ask for them. That's the first thing. And you need to make sure that when you are getting your information and you are doing your research the people who are giving you the information.
Yes.
Because a lot of the time they have their own agenda, and people are always going to have their own biases anyway. So you need to make sure that you are aligning yourself with the things that agree with you.
Yes. Yes, Calamity, you have something?
I just wanted to add, start studying adults.
Yes.
Start studying adults. Start making resources for adults, because I cannot get formally diagnosed, because there is nowhere within even a few hours of me that will diagnose adults.
And that's another thing that's so frustrating, because I'm realizing certain things that Austin is going through. And I said, well, okay, well, why I should probably get tested and see. And I went to my PCP and she was like, well, I really don't know, or well, you might want to try. And I'm like, I might want to try this, or am I supposed to try this? It's very frustrating. And this is another thing that leads into that. What I'm seeing within the autism community is a lot of hate to self-diagnosis. And I feel like that is not fair, because if we are not aware of what is happening and what we are going through, then we won't know what we need to do, or individuals won't know what they need to do. So I really would really like to change is the backlash and the negative comments about individuals who are self-diagnosed or who think that they are. Because if you have the tools and you have the resources and you know and you hear them saying this, why not just say, well, okay, if you know this and if you are feeling this way, here's where you can go. Here's a person that you can talk to. This is a person that helped me, all of the above. And that also leads into the puzzle piece. I didn't know anything about the puzzle piece until I got information from a mom in my support group and some of the experience that she went through with that organization who stands for the puzzle piece. And once I knew that led me to say, okay, now I get, because this could happen to someone in my family. This can happen to one of my friends. So I can't stand behind that. I can't. And what I am seeing a lot is that if someone is posting a puzzle piece or if someone makes a reference to it, it's like World War III. And instead of us going like this, everybody is going like this. Like it needs to stop. It needs to stop. We need to start educating each other. Everyone on the spectrum is different. Everyone has different needs. Everyone has different struggles. And new people who are coming into this, they don't know where to research. They don't know where to look. They don't know who to turn to. And they don't have that support. So we should all come together and be that support for them. Did anyone else? Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, everybody should be just more willing to give people grace, especially seeing, because it's an issue that people are being diagnosed more. But I feel like that's a good thing, because it means that people are educating themselves. Professionals are educating themselves enough to know what to look for. And it's not fair for somebody who, when this wasn't available to them when they were a child, because people weren't diagnosing this and they just overlooked it for something else, when before they knew ADHD almost always occurs with something else, and it was just not a standalone thing. That's not fair to look at somebody and be like, oh, well, because you weren't diagnosed as a child, there's nothing we can do for you. Like, and to me, that doesn't make sense when we know for a fact they weren't, diagnosing people back then.
Especially not women.
Exactly.
Especially not women.
Black women.
Because women are very well at masking and they can control themselves and everything's internal, but because there's no outward signs, then they're not getting looked at.
Yeah.
We're too sensitive. We're sensitive. We're just women. It's just how women are. You know, we're so emotional and overreacting, and that, like, with the when they were doing lobotomies and that back in the 50s and 40s, 50s and 60s, doing lobotomies, and here they had bipolar.
Yes. And another thing I would change your verbiage when approaching someone on the spectrum. Autism does not have a look. It does not have a certain stigma. It doesn't have any of those things. You never know someone's struggles and what they are going through until you talk to them. So we need to start having these conversations, and we need to take out of our vocabulary, oh, they don't look like you. I would have never known that you were autistic. You don't look like it. He doesn't have autism. There's nothing wrong with him. You don't know what goes on at home or what goes on when they're taken out of their routine. So we need to take that out of the verbiage as well.
And the words of my son, David, I watched The Good Doctor. I love that show. And I was like, David, you should watch this. This guy, he has autism. And he said, Mom, we're not all alike.
Right.
We don't do the same things.
We're not all
We're not all alike. It's all different.
Yes.
And I was like, but he shows some things that just looked at Mom.
And that too, that's
not all
another
the
thing.
same.
That they only, especially on television, they only portray typical like Asperger children with autism, or especially when it's adults, it's usually an Asperger adjacent adult, or somebody who is not as higher functioning on the spectrum. And I appreciate that they took all those labels away, because it is such a wide range of people and symptoms and things to look for. Like, it's so many different things. It could be anything. So there is no one look, and stop expecting people to be like genius savants, because everybody's not going to be that.
No.
Stop being so surprised when someone's nonverbal, because there are people that are nonverbal. Like, don't be surprised that they're not talking, but they can do all of these other things. Like, there is no one thing that makes an autistic person.
If everybody's different, don't you think every autistic person would be different too?
Exactly. Yep. I'll put that on a t-shirt, please, so I can buy it.
Let's get some merch, Calamity.
Get that merch out, Calamity.
Come on, let's get some merch.
So if when given the opportunity, and I know sometimes it's hard, there are frustrations, there are schedules, all of these things, but when you have the opportunity, what ways are you ladies able to educate about ASD?
I can go first, since I haven't really gone first, and I have a pretty immediate answer for this. One way I've been doing it is, because like I said, I'm pretty new to realizing it, within the last year is when I officially said, yes, I am autistic. One of the ways that I have been trying to kind of spread the word and educate others is just by talking about it. I have a platform as a content creator where I can, share my experiences with people. There's an amazing tool called peer-to-peer. And on there, you can sign up and list different aspects of yourself that people can search you for. One of them was autistic. And I was so scared to put that on there because of all the things that I usually got. Oh, you don't look autistic. Oh, but you're so well spoken. Well, if you're autistic, why would you be a content creator? Like, you wouldn't talk well, things like that. I was just so afraid of that. But what I found when I finally did put that on there was I had people coming in and going, oh my gosh, I'm meeting somebody else autistic. There was just so much joy and excitement. So talking about it, if you are autistic and you are comfortable, because everyone's at a different place in their journey. I would have never dreamed of talking about it a few months ago. But talking about it does help. And if you aren't educate others. Don't let them get away with saying that, using the R slur and things like that. Make sure that you hold people accountable, and you don't have to be, you can just say, hey, that's not right because it's ableist, and just, explain it. It's not hard. And they can get embarrassed as much as they want, but why would they get embarrassed about a way to be kinder and more understanding? That's the thing that doesn't make sense to me. So I generally use my platform to speak on it. And this month I did a few different charities for autism awareness, and just speaking on why it's important to me. And in these spaces where I can tell others and having people go, wow, I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, that's why this is important, So that's how I've been doing it.
Anybody else?
Don't take no as an answer. When you are trying to fight for Social Security, file that appeal. If they deny that appeal, go again. Don't wait. Don't take no as an answer. If you got to go out to every doctor and go pick up all the records yourself, document everything. My son put a thing in his ear, little gummy scented beads. Dropped that thing in his ear a couple months before our appeal. So my son does things out of impulse. What do? Tell her. I put the thing in my ear. Why? I wasn't thinking. Don't take no as an answer. And the IEP, they try to make you do stuff, and we're just going to do it this way. No. I'm the parent. You have to do what I want to be done. This is, and read it. Read before you sign on everything. Like, when it comes to the legal aspects of everything, don't take no. Read everything. Ask, and don't take no as an answer, because they will literally downplay your situation, and then you're stuck with, well, I can't fight. They told me no. I have to go by with this. And next thing you know, your child's not getting the education that they should be getting. They're not getting the health care that they should be getting, and they're not getting the funds that they should be getting.
And even if you're an adult, I had a friend, well, he's still a friend I had. A friend of mine is on the spectrum, and he requested at his job that he have his own cubicle. Everyone was in open spaces, but he felt much safer being in a cubicle, and because he wasn't allowed to, he didn't have to deal with construction by the window. He didn't have to deal with loud events. Everything that is on his desk, he didn't want anybody touching it, because if one pencil was missing, everybody had a bad day. And he was denied that. And I told him, I said, I think you need to go to HR or see about getting an advocate about that. And he said, you know what, you're right. He researched, he found the advocate. They filed an appeal with HR. He has his own cubicle. He's in his own space, he's comfortable, and he's able to educate people, because a lot of people were asking questions like, well, what's going on? And a couple of people were making like little comments like, why does he get his cubicle and I don't get one? And he said, because I'm on the spectrum. And then that led to him telling them what his life is like and what he's going through on a daily basis. And that's another reason why I always say in everything that I post, whether you have a child, whether you are an adult on the spectrum, you need somebody there with you to make sure that you are getting everything that you need, whether it's from school, preschool, college, to your job. You have that right. That's your patient's right. And if they go against that, they're looking at a huge case that could be viewed everywhere. And they don't want that type of attention. So they're going to do what they are supposed to do for you and by you.
The Disability Act is a thing, and it just doesn't cover autism. It covers
everything.
Bipolar, depression, anxiety, PTSD. Yes. Yes, it covers everything. So if you go to your job and you go fill out the application, do you have a disability? Yes. Sometimes they'll ask you what it is, if you have what, and you put it down. This is what I have. I'm on a spectrum. I have this and I have that, because with me, like if you switch like the GoPup, they were switching everything and driving my anxiety through the roof. And then they tried to fire me. Oh, you can't fire me. I told you I have a disability. My anxiety, I need you to explain this to me.
Right.
And I went to my doctor, my therapist, and got my little service coordinator, what's it called, the advocate, the worker advocate, and went down to my job with me. Don't take no as an answer, because to sit there and try and talk to you like you're stupid and you don't know.
Yes.
There's help.
Especially being Black, especially being a marginalized gender.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. Shandon, how do you, when given a chance, how are you able to educate others?
I do my very best to try to make sure people know that there are resources out there. I'm actually in the middle of trying to find a way to streamline different services that are across different states, because every state does have their own like baseline. Because I feel like the more accessible, like how we were saying before, the earlier you can start with the services, the better off you are. And people don't qualify for the services if they don't know they qualify for the services.
Right.
Like we were talking about the other day, if your child is 5 or under, there are certain rights that they have in every single state, no matter where you are, that they are entitled to have evaluations done so they can make sure that they're not, you know, missing any benchmarker so that they can get these services. But people, and because you don't know, you can't ask.
Exactly.
Like so many people are entitled to free preschool, to Help Me Grow, to all these programs and don't know about it. And I feel like probably that's like the best thing we can do right now, especially since there's such a hard time with adults being diagnosed, and there's nothing to do as adults. Just the sooner you can get the information, the sooner you suspect something, the better. And so I just want people to be more open to being more open to not necessarily thinking that something is wrong with their child, but knowing their child enough to be like, hey, I feel like this is a little off, and being open enough to say that, to ask for the help, because that's the first step. That's the first step, honestly, because you can't do anything without being willing to take that step.
Exactly. Waspit, being a sibling of someone who's on the spectrum, how are you, given the opportunities, how are you able to educate others?
I just try to correct the people that are ignorant most of the time, and then I talk to like my friends and things of that nature, because some people make comments that they think are harmless because they didn't grow up around people that were disabled. And so I understand coming from an ignorant place where you're not trying to be harmful, but you have to be intentional about what you say. So I just try to set people straight. That's generally my thing. And educating myself as well. Like being on this panel was amazing for me because I got to hear about the different resources and experience that you guys has had, especially from the video as well. So that was awesome. So I just tried to absorb more and learn more, because there's always something new to learn as science advances, as technology advances. There's always more coming out. Yes. So I try to share. I try to learn, and then I try to share with others what I learned, because I don't know it all, and I never will.
That's amazing. Okay, so the last question. Oh no, not the last question. I'm sorry. What advice would you give to someone who is newly diagnosed, someone who thinks that they might have ASD, or a parent or a sibling who has a family member or a child who was just diagnosed? Waspit, did you want to go first?
Sure. So I asked my mom about this. She said, take a deep breath. It'll be okay. I was like, okay, Mom, come on. But she said, try to find a doctor or an organization that kind of understands your diagnosis and is familiar with it. And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and for your child, because like you were saying, you have to push back. You have to fight a lot of times, because they're not going to give things to you, or because they think that they know everything. They know it all. They feel threatened when you challenge them, as if you're trying to say that they're stupid, when you're just trying to reach you're all both trying to get to the same place, and you just want to be heard and understood. So just really advocating for yourself is important, not only, generally in everything you do, but especially when it comes to receiving the proper diagnosis, because you don't want to receive treatment for the wrong thing.
Right.
You need the treatment that you need.
Calamity, what being an adult on the spectrum, and I heard about the experience that you stated about you weren't ready to talk about it, you didn't want to get diagnosed. What advice would you have for an adult who might be going through the same thing?
It's a lonely experience, late diagnosis. So find other people that we're out here, we're out here. Just like, I think I started with Reddit and then just like through Twitch, and honestly, the peer-to-peer really helped me meet a lot of amazing people like Awesome Warriors, who is a group on Twitch that is all autistic content creators. And honestly, meeting them has been such an amazing thing. Find your people. And if people aren't going to understand you, it's rough, but they're not your people. They don't deserve to be in your life. They can go. So find your people and advocate for yourself, educate yourself as much as possible. You're just learning something super new about yourself. It's scary. It's so scary. There's going to be a feeling of loss. There's going to be some sadness. There's going to be like relief, like, oh my gosh, I can just bundle up and lay here. Like I think I saw like a meme where it's like people who think what people think it is like when you find out you're autistic. Oh, woe is me. Oh, my life is over. Da da da. It's like what it's actually like. It's like I can go under my table wrapped in a blanket and meow for an hour. And as like kind of wild as that comment sounds, that validation means everything. Find your people. Find your people that will advocate for you, because you will learn more and more to advocate for yourself. If you're not ready to talk about it on a public level, make a separate username and just go into these forums. It's okay. They don't need to know who you are.
Exactly.
That's what I did.
Exactly. What about you, Season? What advice would you have for a parent who has a child that was just diagnosed?
I wrote my stuff down.
Oh God.
I wrote that one down. Okay. So you're not alone. That's one. You're not alone. You know the difference between disability and disobedience, because it's important to know how to actually handle the situation. Do your research, join support groups. Take a break. Even if it's not until they're asleep, you gotta take a break. You have just not with your friends. No, you just have to take that woosah
for yourself.
Pat yourself. Tell you, thank you. I made it through another day. You did such a good job today. You made it. No one knows your child like you, so advocate for them. Don't be an enabler. It'll make things worse. We have to teach our children how to properly behave. If audible, how to express their feelings or thoughts respectfully. Because with David, everything was, I'm mad.
That's what Austin says. I'm so angry.
to teach, there's so many different emotions, and that social skill learning is a number one must, in my opinion. Boundaries and discipline, not spankings, but to teach your children that the world will not tolerate certain behaviors on account that they have autism. We are Blacks. We have Black male children, and if they go into court having a mental meltdown, the society's not ready for that. So just if you're able to teach from childhood up on how to properly say, just a moment, I need to get my thought together, because this is how I'm feeling. Some kind of way that's where the therapy, get your child into therapy as soon as you feel your child is exceptional. Must. With you doing that therapy, everything that I mentioned will fall into place. There you go.
What about you, Shandon? What advice would you give a parent whose child was just diagnosed?
Please be kind to yourself. I feel like that's the one thing nobody said. Because parents have a lot of guilt anyway. And then I know, especially even with my background, like my background is psychology, and I still was like, dang, what did I do wrong? Like, please be kind to yourself, because you didn't do anything wrong. Even if you found out late, whether you found out early, just do what you can when you can, and be kind to yourself, be patient, and don't try to take all the information in at once, because there is a lot of information.
Yes, and it's new information every day. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Fine, go ahead.
Some advice that I would give is to, like everyone said, take breaks. I recently had to come to grips with, you know what, he has 5 to 6 different therapy appointments during the week sometimes. It's okay if I cancel this week. He is not going to hurt if he misses an appointment. Don't beat yourself up about it, because just as overwhelming as it is for the child, it can be overwhelming for the parent as well. And another one is to do your research, find a support group. And a lot of times I feel bad because I feel like people are looking at me like, why is she so excited? But when people come into my chat, or like when I met Calamity, and there was another individual that I met, and I'm like, oh my God, yes, I'm not by myself. Like, it was like one of those things, like finally somebody who gets it and somebody who understands. And another one is to try to the people that are supportive and the people that are in your corner and understand, talk to them. The people that don't understand, that are not supportive, one day they will get it. It doesn't have to be right now. It doesn't have to be when you want it to be, but just try to understand also that they are not there yet and they are not ready to yet. And then the people that will listen and that will help you out emotionally, hold on to them as much as you can. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to add?
Just echoing off something Shannon said there, you said give people who are dealing with children this grace. If you are on the spectrum and you are dealing with some of that feeling of loss for being later diagnosed, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. Like, you've gotten to this point not knowing, so imagine how much better it's going to be now that you know.
And that leads to our last question. And after this question, we're going to be taking questions from the chat, things that you would like to ask, or if there's anything that you missed, feel free to ask questions, but please respect the panelists. There might be some things that they are not comfortable talking about, or some things that they feel like they just can't repeat because it can be traumatic or can be exhausting for them. So please have that understanding. For everyone, I would like to know if there is one thing that you wanted the world to know about you, your loved one, or your child besides having ASD, what would that be?
David can cook. He done showed me so many different things you could do with an egg.
Ooh.
He can cook.
Oh gosh.
And he loves to cook.
That's
Oh, yeah.
awesome. And that
So
gives
does
you
my
a break
partner.
too.
He's been cooking since he got home.
What were we supposed to talk about again? I'm sorry.
That's okay. If there was one thing that you wanted the world to know about you besides being diagnosed with ASD, what would that be?
I need time to think about that. Somebody else go.
I go real quick. So for my sister, I just wish people would understand that she's human as well, and she just wants to be your friend. Like, when she approaches them, like, you don't need to be afraid, you know, like, I'll let you know if you need to be afraid. I will negate that situation entirely, and I come between that. But I feel like a lot of people freeze up and they don't know what to do, like the neutral people, so they do nothing. And my sister wants to have a human interaction just like anybody else does. She wants to play, she wants to laugh, she really loves dancing, she loves music. When my mom used to watch those Billy Blanks like Taibo exercise videos, she'd be in the background exercising with her. It's just a lot of fun, and not a lot of people get to see that side of her because they're so caught up on her that they can't see her personality. Like, she has a personality just like anyone else does. So I wish that was appreciated more.
That's probably my biggest thing too, because my kids are so extreme. Like, sometimes they can be like very emotional and like very reactive, but they are the most happiest, like the most carefree, the most loving. Like, when you put aside like, oh, they're having a meltdown, they're loud, like they're loud because they're excited and they don't know how to control that yet. So because they can't control that, that's just how they express that they're happy. That they're full of joy. Like, just because they might look a certain way or behave a certain way does not mean that they are bad kids. Or I think that's probably the worst one. Like, they're not bad. They're just, that's how they know how to express themselves. And that's the only way they know how to do it. So that's just why they look like that. But overall, they are happy, joyous, normal kids. Because I hate the word normal, but they're just typical kids like everybody else.
Anybody else want to go next?
That's just, I think I'd just echo that. We're people. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. That goes not just for autism, it goes for chronic illness and so many other things. Just because you can't see it or it doesn't affect you, which is where a lot of the high functioning talk comes from. High functioning just means, oh, it doesn't affect me or make me uncomfortable, so it doesn't exist. You don't know what I have to do when I'm home by myself. You don't know how I have to cope to even go out in public.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to people when they have something to tell you, because unfortunately, if you don't, in most cases, they'll just learn to be quiet and suffer in silence, which is what I did for years. And it's taken me a long time to unlearn that.
Mm-hmm.
So just
listen here, Calamity. I don't need you coming over here sounding like David, okay? I'm sorry.
My God.
My God. He was, I swear, I tell you, the conversation we were having all week was just like, oh.
Now you get it, right? Now you
Yeah.
get it.
And she just literally echoed the same thing. I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry, God. You're not the baby. You're my baby, but you're not. Okay. I see you.
I see you. Mm-hmm. I think the one thing that I would want everyone to know about Austin is that he is the most loving, smartest child I have ever met. Like, things that would take me weeks to remember or to recite, he has the ability to hear a song one time and he can sing those whole lyrics. And that just amazes me how, and his attention to detail. He pays attention to things and he's just so kind and so loving to people. And like Shandon said, we always see them having meltdowns and we think that they're like mean or they don't want to be around, but they actually are loving human beings. And he's just amazing. I just want people to know how amazing he is. Okay.
We already know because it is his stream anyway.
That is true.
It really is. It really
is. We just come down here.
And I promise you, if I was a streamer, Gio would be right there too. Because that's all, like right now. He was like, "You're on Twitch and naked." You.
Like, who's that?
God, they take over. It's not
that
yours.
was his first question. He was like, "How could you on Twitch and they can hear you?"
Yes. So I wanted to check. Now we're opening up the floor for questions. Once again, please be respectful to the panelists and bear with them. I also want to welcome everyone in. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for the follows, the subs, the raids. We really, really appreciate this. And now we are opening up for questions. If anyone wants to ask a question for any one of the panelists, we are open to answer. And welcome, everyone. I forgot to say that. Let me see. And there's that awkward silence. Let me see who someone is. Okay.
Well, I got a question, Calamity.
Yes.
As an adult, who diagnosed with, self-diagnosed with Asperger, what did we ask you? Did you mention like what made you look deeper into yourself? To like, there's more to this than just the ADHD that they're saying. There's other things. What made you?
One big thing was actually that my partner was starting to consider it. And so in researching it for them, I started going, oh, Oh, because it was the first time I ever gave myself the permission to really research it. Because it had always been kind of in the back of my mind, but that's the first time I started actually looking into more facts. And instead, I went up to him and I said, "I'm autistic," and he said, "Oh, okay," you know. And he's actually autistic as well. So that's a whole nother dynamic. But that's really what the like moment did, actively looking into it. And then because I was trying to, you know, understand him better and where he came from with things. And for him, it's just the way he was, but putting a name to it allowed me to better like change that lens, which is something I've been using a lot. It's changing that lens to clearly see how to deal with everything. You know, I don't know if I phrased that right, but yeah, that's when I more actively started looking. But it was more that like everything I was doing wasn't helping, and I was literally at a point where, I mean, I've been at that point for a long time. I fell into kind of like some depression and stuff for years. But even as a teenager, I was like, "Mom, there's something wrong with me. Something's up. Like I don't know what it is. I need help. I don't know how." And they just thought I needed to be more disciplined, or, you know,
They'd be like, try
I was a
harder.
teenager, try harder, you know.
Right.
But I was severely struggling. So when the answers started stacking up, it just all fell together.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question in the chat is, as a parent or family member of a child on the spectrum, what is a good age to get a child tested, or is a recommended age? Shandon, did you want to take this question?
First, you're gonna pick on me. I prefer for you to wait until around, I would say around 3. Usually, sometimes they'll do 2, but it's usually around 3, just because they want to make sure it's like not something they're gonna outgrow, or like not something that they're picking up from somewhere else. But I would say as soon as you start to suspect something, start noting things, so that when it is time to go get tested, when they do tell you that they're willing to take that step with you, you have like all these reasons of why you feel like this. Because like I said, even like everybody shouldn't have to have a background in children or psychology or education for them to be heard. And I had that and still wasn't heard. So just to have your evidence and just have a list of things that you feel like you want to address, because they can't argue with the person that's with the child all day and has a whole list of things. Like if you come prepared, just make sure you're prepared. That would be my first step. Make sure you're prepared, and make sure you're just noting the things you see that's causing you to question, and never second guess yourself, because you know your child better than anybody else is gonna know your child. My husband said, even him.
Yes. And the next question is, any advice on getting a parent of a child on the spectrum more engaged with their child's care and development?
Can I answer that?
What does this question or the last question? Okay.
No, this question right here.
Agana.
Yes, them. Good luck. Because if they're stubborn, good luck. But just continue to advocate for your child. Give them. I've given. There was like a website, Asperger's A to Z, where it was like a grandmother and a grandchild together, and she would ask her grandson questions, and he would answer them, and it was like the different what's it called, symptoms from A to Z that he would go through, and just pull them into a support group with you, so they could see, but don't give up unless they're just like completely just, I see you, Calamity, down there, because I like, don't give up. But if it, like in my case, he made my son stop taking his pills and therapy and everything. So good luck, because it's like it could go good and it could go not so good, but just.
And I think also a lot of that has to do with acceptance as well. If they're not going to accept it, it's like you're just like beating a dead horse, because no matter what you say, and I go through this with my husband, where everything that I say that is from a medical standpoint, he has a rebuttal to it, or he has reasons as to why that shouldn't work or that wouldn't work. So I have just learned to just, not necessarily meet him where he's at, but as his partner and as his other half of Austin's parent, I still had to communicate with him about the important things. But I've learned that whatever I'm feeling emotionally, I can't go to him. Whatever frustrations that I'm having, I can't go to him. It just has to be something that I'm getting support from other places. But I try to get him. I would say just try to continue to inform them of, well, there's a doctor's appointment this day, or there's a resource here, so that they can't say that they never knew, but allow them to want to do it on their own as well. The next question is, any advice for meeting and befriending other people with autism? I see a lot of amazing people on social media platforms, but I feel like I might need a different approach than wannabe friends. And I think this is a good question for Calamity.
That's how I'm friends with literally one of the people that I've been friends with the longest. I literally walked up to them at age 13. I was like, "Do you want to be my friend?"
That is so cute.
And we're still friends to this day.
That's awesome.
I think that following a lot of people who like Princess Aspie, who is somebody that I really like to follow. There's others out there that I can't name. That's just my favorite username. There's amazing people out there. Look up the hashtag. I don't know, autistics of Instagram, maybe. Look for those people, get involved. I'm one. Awesome Warriors has plenty. And I'm sure that starting to be involved in those groups that you do find, it's okay to, we all have different traits, but most of us STEM, most of us have special interests. Most of us are really bad socially. We understand each other. So, I say don't be too afraid of messing it up. Because sometimes going in and say, do you want to talk about Star Wars is gonna be great, because if they want to talk about Star Wars too, perfect. I just think that we're taught a lot of conventional ways to socialize, and that's not going to work, especially when meeting other autistic people, because we don't have that. We're different. So don't be afraid, because I know that one of the big thing for me was fear. That's why I didn't want to say anything at first. But yeah, I say just go for it. Start Googling. There's a couple Reddits that are pretty good when it comes to just starting to meet other people and talk about it more. So go on there first.
Thank you for that. The next question is, how do you find help when you don't know? Season, did you want to take that question?
How you find help when you don't know?
Yes.
Go get it.
Oh my God.
I mean, I don't understand the question. That's where the slow me comes in. I don't understand the question. So if you, how to find help? If you have a mental disorder, go to the hospital, or research your symptoms, like Calamity does. Research your symptoms and what you think and go from there. But therapy is the one. Is the first is a good step to start, but don't let them try to shove no pills down your throat or just automatically just throw a diagnosis at you, because I got diagnosed at 14 and now it's all these other things, and here I am 35 and it's I see this son of mine and I think I was wrongly diagnosed, because so do the therapy, Do your research your symptoms, go from there. And Calamity could have answered this one because she's researched, she researched it.
And I also wanted to add, like, ask questions. If you don't feel like, if you're nervous to walk up to somebody or nervous to call someone on the phone, because I know a lot of times with me, I feel like that I am not, I'm always afraid that I am saying something, and I'm not using the correct wording. One moment. I'm not using the correct wording, or I'm going to sound like an idiot at times. So if you do not feel comfortable, I'll always like send a text, get somebody to read it first before I send it, or find out that organization's email, send an email, get someone to proofread it, things of that nature, and then they'll respond back to you. They can respond back.
You just made me remember how I'm not allowed to write business letters anymore without Splat going over them.
Oh my gosh. Yes, and ask questions in a respectful way. Yes.
There's an organization called Autistic Women and Non-Binary Network. One of their resources is for people with late diagnosis specifically. I would look into that. It was an amazing resource. I did a fundraiser for them not long ago. Definitely look into that. I'm trying to find it right now. Is this
Calamity, email that because I would like to read it.
This might be it. Yes. Okay. So this is specifically, their organization is specifically for women, non-binary, and marginalized genders. But I think there is a wealth of information because even like cisgendered men who present differently are going to be overlooked. So this information can help everybody. But I found it, and I will get it to y'all.
Okay. Let me see. What are some things y'all do after a hard day? Oh my gosh. I'll go first because I know everybody else has some things that they want to add. I try to decompress. If I have the opportunity, I'll play a video game. I'll build in The Sims. Like, building in The Sims is like my go-to when I feel like Austin is going to have a bad day and I'm about to stream, or I've had a rough day and Austin has had a rough day. Like, I know that I can step away from that and then I can tend to him and come back. If I get tired, I can lay down. Another thing is putting in a good horror film and watching that until the TV watches me. Shannon, did you have anything you wanted to add?
So two things. One, falling into Twitch. That has been so thanks to all of you because I fell in love with all of y'all. That and also finding a hobby that has nothing to do with anybody else but you. And especially as a parent, that's hard. You have a lot of guilt about that. But that's probably been my biggest thing, falling back in love with things I used to do before and dedicating time to that. My husband said thanks to Twitch too.
Tell him thank you. If you guys weren't watching us, we wouldn't have anybody to talk to.
Yes.
Calamity, what do you like to do after a hard day?
Something that I was really bad at doing was giving myself permission to do nothing. Give yourself that permission. You just did a whole lot. Even if you didn't get a whole lot done that day, your energy level, especially if you are on the spectrum, is different every day. Give yourself that grace. You know, if all you did was get up, take a shower, and get one thing done, you were doing that, you know, dragging 100-pound brick or 1,000-pound bricks behind you, you know? Yes. That's what it feels like. So yeah, you're doing less than other people, but you're doing it with so much more effort. Give yourself that time to relax. It's okay. So what I've been doing is just kind of seeing what it is I want to do. I don't say, okay, now I have to make sure I do this and that, because a lot of my hobbies tend to become jobs. I have that problem.
Oh my gosh, same.
I have that problem so bad. But I definitely, to echo Shannon, find something that you don't have to do, like you can just do for yourself and not involve anybody else. And also if you just want to like watch TikToks for an hour, do it.
Yes.
You're not hurting anybody.
Mm-mm.
It's okay. Give
Mm-mm.
yourself that,
Mm-hmm.
I just say listen to your body and do what you got to do. Like it really varies for me. Usually I'll like take my makeup off, put on a robe, sit on my couch and just under a blanket and just
That's the best.
stay there.
That is the best. Wasp, being a sibling of someone who is on the spectrum, I can guess that you've had some hard days as well. What helped you decompress and relax at the end of the day?
So for me, video games have always been an outlet because my parents are so protective. We didn't really like do sleepovers and things like that. So it's like, I can't be in the streets. So I'll just be on the game. I just be on the game. And so because my parents are like lower middle class and they have 4 kids, we do a lot of room sharing. And I shared a room with Ashley. So like night times, she want to wake up and she want to throw a shirt across the room on my side of the room. Like that's going to wake me up and disturb me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just try and take breaths whenever I could take a breath, whenever that came up. When she was having a difficult day or something, maybe my mom would bake with us or something that we could all do together.
That's
I just try to stay out of her way, let her do her thing.
Right.
Have her moments like, go ahead, girl. We partying. It's 2 a.m. We partying. I got school in the morning. Let's go.
Right.
But I love her to death, So
It's like, this is what we're doing.
that's what we doing. Yeah.
This is life. Exactly. And Caesar, what are some of the things that you like to do at the end of the day to decompress besides be Beyonce?
I'm about to be Beyonce tonight. Let me tell you something, because I need to decompress. But on average, I have this phrase I call where I need to recharge my battery, and it can be at the end of the day or it can be at the end of a long stretch of just, where I go MIA. I'm going on a hiatus. You let everybody, I'm about to go on a hiatus. I don't answer my phone for the next 3 days. You already know, because I do it. I need to recharge my mental battery, because either I'm reading my book, I'm forcing myself to, because I haven't been able to stream like I want to. So it's like, okay, well, let me at least try to play a video game, or I started reading my book, my Stephen King books again, or binge watching Netflix. Like, don't bother me. This is my time.
Right.
I will see y'all when I come out of, whether it's 2-3 days, I will see y'all when I come out of, but it helps. And then I come back and y'all don't even know nothing happened. Hey, how you doing?
That's exactly. So, and another question that we have in the chat is, how do you choose when and how to pick your battles? Oh my God.
I got this one.
You can go first. You go first.
For therapy, this phrase: focus on what you can control and not on what you can't. That's how you choose your battles.
Answered. Yep. Answered.
You can't.
Oh my God.
You cannot change everything. You cannot let everything get to you. Just like Phenom, when he was having his moment, let him. Just ignore him.
Yep.
Because if you try to reach down to pick him up or tell, he's just going to get louder. He's going to fly out. Like, choose your battles.
And a secret, a lot of that, and people give me flack for this all the time, but they don't have to understand because they're not here. Options. A lot of times it's not even that it's just they need an option. They don't want to control. Give them an option. Like, you want to watch TV? Hey, wait, guess what? You can't watch TV, but you can do this. You can read a book or you can go to bed. There you go. You can choose. Now you can choose.
The word
you don't even have to say no.
Yeah, the word no is a trigger for them because they feel like after no, it's nothing. So now what I'm going to do, right. And we had to learn that through his behavioral specialist about options. Well, we can't have this, but you can have this. This is really fun, or this is really yummy. You can try this. And it works. And like I said earlier, sometimes they have to learn, you're not always going to get your way. You're not always going to have things go your way. But just like we need a mental health day or we need a cheat day during dieting, they do too. So sometimes it's like, you want to eat candy, for dinner or you want
Whatever.
to eat, just go right ahead. We'll try again tomorrow.
But yeah, control
You have
options. That's
to
probably
stay
like the number
sane.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Does anybody else have anything to add to that?
Focus on what you can control and not on what you can't. I'm trying to tell you something.
Mhm.
And everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there you go.
Yes. And does anyone have? Oh, my question has already been answered, but I would like to say that you all are awesome. The stream is awesome and important, and I want to thank you for making a challenging parent causing meltdown day a
Mm.
lot brighter. I'm
Oh,
so glad.
Bye,
I'm
Rena.
so
I love you.
glad. Hi.
let me go look.
Being a sibling. Oh, and Toy has
Oh,
another one. Being a sibling and growing up with a sibling on the spectrum, it can be hard to understand. Waspit, how did you know? How did you have the
Oh.
thought on this
Not
is
have the
just for
thought.
attention? Yes.
Yes, so for my parents, I know early on, like you guys were talking about how people be spanked. Like when Ashley would do things she wasn't supposed to do because she'd love to get into things like she'd get into her diaper sometimes, she'd get poop everywhere, she would open cabinets and take things out. And for a while their approach was spanking her. And all of us got spanked, and that's a whole different chapter of trauma unpacking there. But at some point it just clicked with them and they realized that this is who she was, and that is just how she operates, and she wasn't doing it to be malicious or to be disobedient. And that's why I really liked you guys talking about the difference between a disability and disobedience. It's very important to understand and recognize that, because you cannot beat everything out of everyone. It
You
does not work.
can't.
you can't
Didn't
beat
work
nothing
with
for
me.
Exactly.
nobody.
Yes,
No.
exactly. It did work for me. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work for my sister. So you just have to be honest with yourself. I think a lot of times when people feel like, oh, this is
I got a
just for
background.
attention, you're projecting your own assumptions about people with disabilities onto the person that's disabled, and trying to make yourself okay with their condition. And like, oh, you're just doing this for attention. This can't be real. I don't believe this. So they have to do some unpacking inside of themselves and some research. I feel like if you learn more about how it works, you're less prone to be susceptible to take an easy thought right out and just saying you're doing this for attention. This isn't real. You're faking your disability. I just saw you get out of your wheelchair and take 5 steps. You don't have a
Right.
disability. What you
Right.
sitting in that car for? You just have to unpack that and work on yourself in that aspect.
Educate
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. Toy said, and for Nate, did he ever feel? Yes. I really, really wanted him to participate, but he doesn't like to do cool things with his mom. So, but Nate and I have had conversations where, and like I tell everybody all the time, like Austin was my surprise baby. I was told I couldn't have any more children. I shouldn't have any more children. It was a health risk. And for a long time, it was just me and him. And I remember having the conversation, and it's crazy because I trust Nate with my child more than I trust some adults. And he knows how to, he knows what Austin needs. He knows when he's upset. He knows what, there's even times where he told me, like, Mom, that's not what he needs. He wants this. And I have to take a step back and like, okay. But it's crazy because I hear him sometimes he takes the behavioral therapy approach, but I think because of the way that I parented him, he's learned from me. So it's funny, I've said to him, like, I've heard him say one time, you're not eating that. You only wanted to eat it because you saw me eating it. And I had to step in and say, well, you're his older brother. He wants to be like you. So if he sees you eating it, he wants to eat it too. And it took a little bit of time for him to realize, well, he's just not doing things just like other children or just like how other children would do it. And it took him a while to get it. It's a lot of frustrations. Like, and it's crazy that Waspit mentioned that because I feel so bad for him sometimes because when Austin wakes up at like 3 and 4 and he wants to play, Nate is the one that's sitting up with him. He's sitting in the room and he's playing with him. And I'm like, you got to go to school tomorrow. And he's like, we're not getting any sleep tonight. So it's like, it's heartwarming and it's refreshing to know that he's frustrated as well, but he gets it. So I think he's felt like that. And I remember him saying, you know, well, I remember that statement that he made, and I had this conversation with Season because I couldn't understand why Nate was so upset and why there was a disconnect. And I remember Season saying to me, you need to take him and pull him to the side because everything has changed. And then I said, what do you mean? And she said, just listen to me. She said, everything has changed. You need to talk to him. And I remember having that conversation, and I said to him, I said, you don't have to think that I'm going to be upset with you. I'm just talking to you, and I want to know how you are feeling. And he said, I'm afraid. He said, I didn't want this to happen to my brother because I'm thinking about him getting picked on. I'm thinking about people mistreating him. And he's very, very protective. Like, even to Austin's dad, he'll tell his dad in a minute, like, no, we're not doing that. We're doing this because this is what works. And he said, ever since Austin was diagnosed, like, everything changed. Like, it's not the same anymore. And I feel like I can't talk to anybody because I don't want to upset you. I don't want Austin to feel like I don't love him or I don't care. So I feel like once we had that conversation, he has a better understanding of things, and he has a lot of patience with him. And I've never seen a 16-year-old have that much patience with a child. I'm talking from cutting up his sandwiches the way that he wants it to, from, no, you're putting too much jelly on his sandwich. He doesn't like that. He has a sensory issue. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, it's amazing. So,
It's incredible.
yeah, I think that he had, like I said, he has his struggles. All of us do, but I feel like he gets it, and I can appreciate that. And he understands. I love that about him.
I'm glad you got that. You guys were able to build
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because from before to him to where he's at now, I see the huge difference as well. Before it was like a resentment to now it's more, y'all are a team, y'all are working together, and I do see a lot, and he does deserve everything. Nate deserved. Yes, he did.
Yes, he
High
does.
five, baby.
He does.
Got this.
Waspin, did you ever feel like that did you ever feel like that? Did you ever feel like there was some sort of resentment, or you felt like, oh my God, like she needs everything? Like, did you ever feel like that at that point?
I think maybe my younger sisters may have felt that, but for me, well, maybe not even, because that's been our life. Like, since I've had memories, she's been in my memories, and that's just been a part of us since we were born. It's not like she was born 5 years into my life and I had gotten used to being an only child. Like, I don't mind sharing my life and my time with her because that's just all that I've ever known. So that's something I guess my parents can be grateful for, as I never felt like I was sidelined or pushed to the side because we were always operating on Ashley time. So.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm fortunate to have that. Yeah, we do stuff on her time. She went to lockdown. She does a lot of this, hiding behind her arms and things like that. So that's we just accommodated that. So
yeah.
When you say like you guys are on Ashley time, the questions in my head that getting it out my mouth is the problem on Ashley time. So if you were to move out of your house, would that be a problem? Like, not saying for you to move out, but like that connection as far as like being on Ashley time, would that be like what is the word? What am I looking for? Somebody help me.
Be a problem, like be a
disruptor.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm not there anymore, but my sisters are still there. So they have I have two younger sisters as well. Actually, all three of them. I'm the oldest of four. So even though I moved out when I was 18 because me and my parents just didn't mesh well. So I was for the streets at 18 and all that stuff.
Girl, same. I was right there with you.
My mom was
Right there
tripping.
with you.
I was like, y'all homophobic pro-police. I got to get up out of this joint. Like,
Right.
So I moved out when I was 18. So that kind of put more responsibility on my younger sisters and stuff. Because, I was the one when my parents went somewhere for a few hours. I was the one that used to have to change the adult diapers and things like that. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. And now that became my sister's responsibility. So I'm not sure how comfortable they are with that. I have to ask my mom how they're doing because I don't know if my sisters be out there changing the diapers, but I hope that they're able to get out and do things without my sister being there. So I don't know. I miss her. I do go and visit, and whenever I go over there, she always comes out of the room and gives me a hug, and she can only do about 2 to 5 seconds of affection at any given moment. And she pushes you away, and she doesn't want to receive it anymore. But I know she loves me, and I love her. So I'll always be in her life to some degree, assisting and helping. She'll never just be out here alone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And the next question that we have is, do you ladies see that most of your experiences with diagnosed children, siblings, or self were positive or negative? Was it difficult or easy?
All of the above.
I would agree.
Yes, it's a little bit of everything. It just depends on the circle that you're in and the people around you. It depends on a lot of stuff. Because it's going to come from everywhere. You're going to have people that's going to support you that you never thought would support you, and people you thought was going to support you, they'd be like, bye. So,
Yeah.
It's always a battle between, like with me, was the Social Security and the diagnosis and then the medicine and making sure the right people were going through. We're still waiting for wraparound services, and he's about to be 17, and he canceled all his services. So it's both.
And I always tell people there are triumphs and there are sad times, there are struggles, there are fears. So it's not easy, but with time, you are able to navigate easier. I always say that.
Yeah, I have to agree with all of that. Just even talking about like being diagnosed later in life, there's like just a range of emotions from like relief to anger to, regret. There's a sense of loss there. I think all of the above definitely applies. It's a journey, and it doesn't just stop when, you get your diagnosis. That's the beginning, honestly.
Yep. That is so true.
I feel like it's just like life is like that anyway. Diagnosis or no diagnosis, it's always going to be hiccups. It's always going to be issues. It's always going to be something. And I feel like the more we recognize that disabilities are not that hindering, it's really not that much different than being a person. Like everything has its ups and downs. And it doesn't have to be so black and white. And it doesn't have to be a battle if you're willing to accept that it doesn't have to be a battle.
Correct.
Yep. You don't have to other people. You don't have to be scared of catching it. You don't like.
I think that was the one thing that surprised me was someone asking me if their child was going to get autism
people think
they
that.
were around. And it was the most, I didn't even know what to say. And I'm like, what? But I had to like take a step back and say like, I had to put myself in their shoes if I was asking something that I was scared to ask. It's like one of those things where it's like a 50-50 thing. It's like you want to just like shake them and like, where's your common sense? But at the same time, it's like you have to tell them so that they'll know. And then they'll tell everybody else, hopefully, and then everybody else will get it. And then you won't have to have this conversation again eventually. So... yes. Let me check the chat. Does anyone else have any more questions? All right, and I think we are done with the questions. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to... someone else had some. My girlfriend has an autistic nephew, and in living with her parents who are taking care of him, he has problems with me spending time with my daughter because his father, who is also on the spectrum, is not around for him. Is there anything that I can do to be able to go around my child without hurting his feelings? My girlfriend has an autistic nephew and living with her parents who are taking care, and he has problems. Oh, okay. So what you're saying is he wants more of your time. I'm trying to understand the question. So are you saying that he wants more of your time and demands more of your time than what you are giving to your child? He gets upset that I go to see my daughter and lash. Oh, okay. So, and this is my opinion. I always feel like when you enter into a relationship or you enter into a marriage or whatever it is, even if you two are not together anymore, that is now a part of your family. So what I feel like what might need to happen is there might be some days that you might have to spend time with both, or if you know that you're going somewhere and you're coming right back, there's always that preparation for transition. Well, we're going to go here, we're going to go hang out for a little bit, but then I have to bring you back home, and then your daughter has to go with you. So I think there needs to be a conversation, and I don't think that it would hurt for you to spend a little bit of time with him so that he can so that he won't feel left out, and then he still gets that sense of parenting and that sense of love that he's missing out on, because that could be the reason why he's lashing out. He sees you picking up your daughter and then he's left behind. That's hurtful, and that's that can cause trauma sometimes too. Did anyone have anything they wanted to add to that, or did you share those experiences?
Family therapy.
Family therapy, yes, that's a good one.
I could make a comment.
Sure.
Just because I thought of this before and I forgot to kind of bring it up again. Therapy, medication, even a formal diagnosis is a privilege.
Yes.
So that's why self-diagnosis is valid. And in some cases, having that diagnosis, especially as a person of color, especially as a female, could potentially hurt you more than it could help you.
Yep.
People might not believe you. They might be saying you're overreacting. People, I've always wondered, do I even want to officially get diagnosed? Because will that affect me one day wanting to adopt kids? Because that's been my dream for years and years, is to adopt. Will they deny me? Especially as a Black woman, I already have that going against me.
Right. And it's a struggle. It's a fear. I think that no one will understand unless they try to understand and they try to get it and absorb it and are willing to be educated. So it's rough.
And even with diagnosis, you do still need to educate yourself because, like everybody's been saying, it's very easy to be misdiagnosed.
Yep.
And it is very important that you have the right diagnosis, because diagnosis determines what type of aid and services are that you can acquire. So don't let it, if you have autism and they're telling you that you have dyslexia, you're not going to have as many doors open to you because they're only going to give you dyslexic services. It's very important. And don't let people throw pills at you either.
Yes.
It is very important to take medication, but that should never be a first step. You need to invest unless it is a dire situation, because then it's just going to cover what needs to be
corrected. And that's what
they always talk. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
They're always tossing pills. I understand where David, it took me a while to let David take a pill because my experience with taking pills, they gave him Zoloft. We can't take Zoloft. We have suicidal tendencies. They gave him some other one and he couldn't eat. But it took me forever because I didn't want pills to be the solution. I wanted him to be trained how to tell a joke, how to find a way to break everything down so he could understand it and not, go have a meltdown by looking at a piece of paper and like, oh my God, words, But they're always trying to toss pills. Pills should not be the first answer at all. Research the pills that they try to toss your way, because lithium, that is a battery acid.
Yes.
Okay, for me. Okay, there might be. Well, I take lithium. Let me tell you something. Okay, they gave me
everything ain't for everybody. Everything not for everybody.
It's not.
Yes.
They're trying to give me battery acid. I don't want this.
And that's why I could appreciate Austin's doctor. I love her because I was so fearful when I told her about him not being able to focus in school or him not being able to sleep at night. And the first thing that came out of her mouth was, well, let's try a holistic approach first. And then if that doesn't work, we'll have to discuss other things. And I was like, is this real? Like, I couldn't believe it. And I remember having these conversations with her. And I remember that last night where I feel like Austin did not sleep. And a lot of things people don't know is that sometimes people who are on the spectrum, they have really bad insomnia. And it got to the point where my baby was having like bags under his eyes. And a 4-year-old with bags under their eyes is like, what is happening? So, and I told her, and I was just like, at that point, I wasn't getting any sleep. Austin wasn't giving me sleep. And she was like, let's try one more thing. And I'm looking at her. And she said, I know that you're tired. I know that you're frustrated. She said, but I don't want to put him on something that's going to be harder for him to get off, one. And two, it can affect other things or mask what's really going on.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that because even, I think somebody said that they had their tonsils and adenoids removed when their child had their tonsils and adenoids removed. Okay. We found out that could possibly be one of the factors of him not having any sleep, because she pushed for them to get a sleep study test, and the doctor pushed for that. I didn't have to do anything. So I'm so grateful for her. And I tell parents all the time, once you find that good doctor or that good advocate, keep them. I don't care. Don't move. If they are not going to be in your area, stay there as long as you can so you can keep them.
I'm happy you brought that up too, because I noticed all of us were saying that when I was saying it. A lot of people on the spectrum don't make melatonin like
it's like candy
anybody else would. And so like you give them melatonin, it's like, okay, what's this? I don't know what to do with this. Like,
I hand him his gummies, and that's what he calls them, his gummies, his melatonin gummies, and he's
I can't say that out loud because they're gonna come in here asking for theirs.
I'm sorry.
David, don't take his. He said they don't work.
They don't work. Austin has even said to me, Mommy, I'm tired. And I'm like, no, you're not. He was like, can I have my gummies now? And I'm like, yes, you can have them. He's like, he knows that it's candy to him. He's just going to lay there and watch YouTube Kids and twiddle his thumbs, and he's going to be all right. He got his candy.
Right.
Yeah, I will say melatonin has never really helped me personally.
Well, see, here's the thing, okay? Because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to turn off the lights and the TV.
Oh, my God.
And you're supposed to take it 20 minutes to a half an hour before you decide to go to sleep. And then you have to be relaxed, because if you don't fall asleep within them first 20 to 30 minutes, it's not going to work.
Yeah, that is what was told to me also. And I'm like, excuse me? That 20 minutes turns into an hour. That hour turns into 3 hours.
Because after the first 20 minutes, if they are not in the bed, it's not
over.
But here's the thing. I've taken the melatonin gummies, okay? And like the first day or two, you just, that was the best sleep ever. And then next thing you know, wired. Sleep for nothing.
We did have one doctor They gave one good recommendation, and it's worked. I'll tell you if you want to know, but they
Yes,
told
ma'am.
us to start microdosing it. So like however many they take that, and every day give a little bit less so that they body and do it at the same time every day, so their body get used to like recreating how much they need. And honestly,
That's
knock on wood, he been sleeping at night since we did that, and now he don't take it at
I'm
all.
gonna have to try that. I am gonna have
Knock
to
on
try that.
wood. Unless we have unless something that upset the schedule like daylight savings time or something like that. For the most part, we haven't needed it. No, I'm saying
Knock
that
on,
now.
I'll knock on wood for you.
It's quiet. I don't want to.
I will knock on wood for you.
He been the first one out of the three. He's the first one to sleep every night. He know he needs to be sleep by 9:30. Like, so we start at 8. Take your everything before 8. 8:30, go lay down. Read your stack. He has a stack that he keeps set of his books, and he has to read them in the same order every night. Don't touch his stack. It's gonna cause a problem. And if he can get through his stack, he will lay there until he can close his eyes and make himself sleep.
Yes.
So that's so nice.
It's that rich. Like, he's gonna have 5 books, and these 5 books is the books I'm gonna read. So we take them back, and then we go to bed.
Exactly. Exactly. Let me see. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. So I think that is all the questions for tonight. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to add before we close out? No? Okay. All right. So I want to say, first I want to say thank you to my panelists, who are now my friends. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you doing this with me. And I appreciate everyone who took the time out to want to hear our stories and our experiences and share. And also allowing yourselves to be able and comfortable enough with me to be able to share your experiences. Also, thank you to my mods for always holding it down. And once again, thank you to everyone who has followed, who's hosted. Even if you retweeted this event and retweeted that we were live, thank you so much. Also, thank you to Twitch for allowing us to be on the front page. And thank you so much to everyone who has subbed and who just took the time to hang out and ask questions. I probably missed a question, but if you want to message me or anything, you are more than welcome to do that. We've been holding our panelists long enough, so I want to let them go. Yes, ma'am. Did you have something you want to say, Wasp? Oh, okay. Also, guys, if you want to know where we got our videos from, the first video was from, I got that from YouTube. That video was made by Minnesota Department of Health and Services. Also, Autism Awareness with Liam on YouTube, the second video. And also thank you to Shannon for helping out with those resources that you see in the chat. This video will be in the highlights and will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you miss some parts, if you want to look at it, get those resources, feel free. If you can't catch them in the video, please email me and reach out and I will get those to you as well. So thank you, everybody, and I hope you all have a good night. Let me see if we can raid somebody. Calamity.
Thank you, Austin.
Yes.
Thank you, Austin.
Have a good night,
Thank you,
It was awesome having a conversation with you, Austin.
I wanted to raid someone from the Twitch team that you were referring to. What was the name of the Twitch team again?
Awesome Warriors.
Awesome Warriors.
AUSOME.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I can look for their link.
Jill say good night, Austin.
Austin, everybody
Good night,
saying
Austin.
good night.
All right, I'm gonna go creep it on my kids. It was lovely being here with you, ladies, and I look
Thank
forward to
Wasp.
more
Thank
opportunities
you,
to speak with
Wasp.
y'all.
Nice meeting you.
Yes,
it's
thank
nice
you
seeing
so much.
Thank you. I can't find there.
They don't have a Twitch. I posted in the chat here.
Okay. All right.
In
I followed
the
you,
Zoom
ladies,
chat.
too. So I'm. Oh, I see it right there.
Okay, awesome.
Is
So
anybody? I
let's-
didn't even look to see. Is anyone on? Oh yeah, there's a couple of
Yeah.
people on.
All right, so let's
Yay.
raid Newcastin. I've been lurking in her channel. Let's raid her.
She's doing a fundraiser right now.
Yes, let's go raid her. So we're gonna raid Noobtastic Gaming. She is playing. Is she? I can't even see. Hold on one second. Hold on one second.
We're doing a watch party.
Oh, okay. So they're doing a watch party. So we're going to go and hang out with them, guys. Please show them some love. Give them a follow because I'm sure you're going to love them. And I will see you guys next time. There will also be a more panels like this. The next one coming up is a Mommy Gamers panel, which is coming up in May. So I hope you guys are able to come out for that. And I hope you all gain some information and gain the knowledge. If not, I am always available for you guys to answer some questions. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Have a good night and hang out for this raid. Bye.